Well, there's still some common sense in national media ahead of the big game on Sunday. Good morning. Happy Red Friday. The biggest Red Friday with Super Bowl 59 right around the corner. And yes, there is some common sense left in sports media when it comes to your Kansas City Chiefs. I'll explain that coming up here in a minute. But shout out to everybody who helped make yesterday's show possible. We were down at Chicken and Pickle in Overland Park. Fox and Friends was down there. Steve Ducey was back home in his state of Kansas, and he was broadcasting from there. And I'll tell you what, it was an awesome time, but I was fried. And it was a bad day for me to be fried because my wife had one of like her 4 haircuts she gets during the year. Just happened to be scheduled. Mark, you know how it is. They schedule these haircuts like weeks or months in advance. You can't move them, man.
And you kind of forget about them, too.
You do. You kind of forget about them. Turn your mic around, by the way. I think it's facing the wrong direction. There you go. There you go. I'm like, why does Mark sound like he's in a tunnel back there?
Yeah, they were messing with my mic yesterday.
Oh, man, these engineers. You'd think they know what they were doing, but they don't. But, yeah, that was a long day. But I'm glad it worked out. Shout out to our buddy Jasper Mirable for helping making that show happen. And Chicken and Pickle folks were outstanding. My first time at the Overland Park venue, and they do an awesome job down there. Really enjoyed everything that they offer. And I see that Steve Ducey has the morning off today. So yeah, he apparently was fried yesterday too. But we're back at it because, of course, Sunday is as big as it gets in this town. The Chiefs are trying to pull off history. They are trying to win a 3rd straight Super Bowl. And a theme that we've talked about this week is I believe the Chiefs' hatred is based in nothing more than people don't want to see greatness anymore, and they want to be permanent victims. So watching the Chiefs lose, for some reason, makes them feel good. And that wasn't the case in a pre-social media era. No one felt this way about Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls. But for some reason, with the Chiefs, they do feel that way. Now, the Patriots are different because they were cheaters, and they were from Boston. And frankly, Boston's an easy city to hate. But the Chiefs, it's never made any sense. And Mike Greenberg of ESPN, he's been there forever, 25, 30 years. He's been a fixture at ESPN. He put it very well, and he basically backed up a theme that we've talked about all week here on KCMO Talk Radio when it comes to the bizarre hatred of our own team, the Chiefs.
We get so mad about the littlest things in our culture now, and the problem with that is there are things to be genuinely worried and mad about, but we lose the ability to decipher which one of them really do matter because we get involved in nothing. So people are down on the Chiefs now because of a bunch of things that are nothing in the big picture. You're upset because they show Taylor Swift on television for a total of 60 seconds out of a 3.5-hour broadcast. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. Andy Reid is like a big teddy bear. I don't know that there's anyone more lovable than that guy is. Patrick Mahomes is on his way to being probably the greatest player in the history of his sport, the greatest quarterback in the history of his sport, and as far as I can tell, a pretty likable fellow. I'm not sure what it is you would dislike on his face about him. They are a ridiculously good team, and they are doing things that we have literally never seen before. I'm not sure why people are telling me I should be getting tired of seeing this greatness.
I'm not sure why people are telling me I should be tired of seeing this greatness. That's the only part of the quote there from Mike Greenberg of ESPN on the Pat McAfee show that I disagree with. And the reason I disagree with it is because, well, no one wants to see greatness anymore. If you're great at something, what do people say? What do people assume today? Whether it's in sports, music, business, doesn't matter. I must have been born on third base. Must have cheated. Must have gotten a shortcut. Must come from money. They just start making up reasons for why you must have had some kind of success and they didn't. That's what we do. Social media has made that infinitely worse, but that's what we do in America today. We don't look at somebody or something and say, wow, I'm watching something I've never seen before. And that's what we all might be doing on Sunday. And you got to pinch yourself because it's potentially going to happen with your team. And for those of you who were part of that 50-year drought, to now be sitting here saying, is my team potentially going to be winning a third straight Super Bowl, something that has never been done? Yeah, it is amazing. It is greatness. And it's, I admit, difficult at times to not take for granted. This was part of a conversation I had yesterday on Kansas City PBS. We were recording the weekend review show that airs tonight at 7 o'clock. And part of the conversation was, is there a sense of not fatigue? Fatigue is the wrong word, but almost malaise where people are like, yeah, we're back at a Super Bowl. Yep, this is what we do. We go to Super Bowls and we, usually win them and the whole thing. Maybe a little bit. What do you think, Mark? Is there a little bit of that going on around town? Do you get that sense that there's some of that happening around Kansas City?
No.
No? Not in your world?
No.
You think everyone's as fired up as they were for the first one in Miami? I don't think they are.
No, I don't think so.
So there is a little bit of that settling in.
A little bit. It's kind of like what Mahomes said. The first one is always the best one.
Yes, that's
But
true.
I do see everybody wearing red still. So
Yes. I mean, I don't think the Red Friday enthusiasm has waned at all. I agree with you there. But it's human nature. When you've gotten to something, as often as the Chiefs have gotten to the Super Bowl the last few years, there's a little bit of that goes on. There's no doubt about it. But it's still greatness.
Well, my reservation would be based on, I feel like people are counting the egg before it hatches here. There seems to be a lot of talk. So my reservation is more on fingers crossed and walking on eggshells.
And going into the game, not expecting the win, but hoping for the win.
Hoping for the best.
Hoping for the best. Well, the best is the win, right? Isn't the best the win?
Absolutely.
Well, that's something now that you got to look at if you're a Chiefs fan and say, don't go into this thing and just say, hey, we're the Chiefs. We win these games by a field goal. That's what we do. Because this Eagles team is and can be dangerous. There's no doubt about it. So now as we kick it off on a Red Friday on KCMO, I'm not sick of the greatness. I know nobody in this town is sick of the greatness. And for anybody who is, well, guess what? They might be a Cowboys fan. Oh, my gosh. The amount of trolling, I got some Cowboys fan in my mentions on Twitter. And I'm like, bro, you're a Cowboys fan. Give it up. Relax. You hate the Chiefs because they're simply not what your team is and hasn't been in 30 years. And that's what a lot of this is about. Instead of saying, I know my team is not where I want it to be, but gosh, I get to watch something historic here. It's my team stinks, therefore I have to root against a team that's really good. So you're going to root for the Eagles if you're a Cowboys fan? Really? You're going to root for the Philadelphia Eagles if you're a Cowboys fan to own the Chiefs? That's like the Mexican restaurants closing down on Monday and not making money to try to own Donald Trump because he's kicking illegal immigrants out of the country. Who's really getting owned here? Look in the mirror. The man in the mirror is the only person you are owning on this one, or the woman in the mirror, or the they, them in the mirror. Whoever's in the mirror is the one who's getting owned here. That's it.
I can liken the phenomena maybe you speak of to like when I get ready in the morning. I'll be in the bathroom. I've got the lights on.
Careful,
Great,
John. Careful.
Lights, nice and bright.
Careful.
I don't realize how bright those lights are until I walk down the dark hallway back to the bedroom, tried to not to wake up the missus, So right now we're basking in that light and maybe not quite as aware how bright that light is.
It's funny. I turned down the dimmer in the kitchen this morning because I was told that sometimes it feels like Arrowhead Stadium when somebody walks into the kitchen when I'm done at about 4:30 in the morning. So I try to remember that. I don't always remember that, but I know this much. When my dad visits, it is always Arrowhead Stadium at 4 in the morning somewhere in the house.
Yep.
That's just how it goes. That's how it goes. It must come with
Life's tough.
age.
Get a helmet.
Oh, my goodness. Well, it is an exciting morning. We are going to have Kendall Gammon next hour. Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe. Harris Faulkner, Fox News, going to be checking in just before 8 o'clock. She's fired up for the Chiefs. And then our buddy Nick Haynes in studio at 9 a.m. 913-408-7957. I want to get the pulse on how you are feeling this morning as we kick it off on a Super Bowl Red Friday on 95.7 FM KCMO. We're streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. On the news front, I was very disappointed by somebody in this town. I will tell you who and why next.
It's Mundo in the Morning. Now on FM at 95.7. Set a preset on your radio. KCMO Talk Radio.
I really didn't want to do this morning. I don't want to do this, but I'm never going to BS you, and I'm never going to come on the show and avoid a news story because I don't want to talk about it or because I don't want to offend somebody. It's the news in Kansas City, and you know what? We're going to cover it, and I'm just going to let it rip on what I think about it. That's what we do, and it's going on 7-8 years now of doing that here with you on KCMO 95.7 FM and streaming all morning long on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Mayor Lucas, we saw him yesterday, and he was down at Chicken and Pickle. Now, I will defend the mayor before I tell you why I'm upset with something he did yesterday. On our Facebook page, we posted photos on the KCMO Talk Radio Facebook page of yesterday's event with Steve Ducey from Fox and Friends. The mayor came down, he did his interview with us, and then he went on Fox and Friends. And there were people on our Facebook page saying, this was in Overland Park, and he's not the mayor, and he shouldn't have been there. Okay, well, I actually don't have a problem with that because they are the Kansas City, Missouri Chiefs, okay? Kansas City, Missouri is the hub city where the Chiefs play football. The event with Steve Ducey happened to be in Overland Park, Kansas. That's where it got set up at Chicken and Pickle. Does anyone really want to hear from Kurt Skoog about the Chiefs in that situation? I'm not knocking Kurt Skoog. He's been a guest on this show. He's a fine man. But just because they picked a restaurant in Overland Park doesn't mean the mayor of Kansas City, Missouri should not be the one to speak on behalf of the city if you do want to talk to a politician. If anything, you should maybe get on Fox for not picking a place in Kansas City, Missouri, but whatever. It was a great location. It was a great spot. Who cares? I mean, in this case, we're all rooting for the Chiefs. We're one big happy family right now. We can go back to bickering on Monday or Tuesday about, the state line. But for now, we're all Chiefs fans. It's all good. And he is the mayor of the hub city where the Chiefs play football. So I had no problem with that yesterday. But there were some people on our Facebook page upset with it. And I also put the photo of Steve Ducey and I up on my Instagram at Pete Mundo. You can see that there as well. But what I will say is the mayor finished up with us, and we didn't get a chance to really dive into the conversation I wanted to dive into. We'll do that during a slower week because he got pulled away for Fox. I got big time by Fox yesterday, but it's okay. They're good friends. We're cool with that. But I did bring up the fact that Quinnipiac had that poll that had the Democratic Party 26 points underwater in popularity right now in the country. There's a 57% unfavorable view of the Democratic Party right now. And I asked the mayor about it, and to his credit, he leaned into it, and he's like, hey, that's why I got to talk to people like Fox News. I actually think he can do good for his own party in getting them on the straight and narrow. I believe that. But I said that yesterday, and then he lets me down. He lets me down on the back end because he gave the state of the city yesterday. It's kind of like the State of the Union. I think Emmanuel Cleaver started these in Kansas City, Missouri. A little pomp and circumstance for the old Rev. And they've been going on ever since. And whatever, that's fine. But let's be honest, no one's really watching them. I mean, just be clear. Please. I didn't watch it yesterday, okay? I watched it back at night when I was prepping for the show. But, I'm not sitting there, it's high noon, time to watch the State of the City. Said nobody ever. Okay.
We had a party, some jack stack in and everything.
It did look like a good time for the people who were there. But I listened to it last night, and I was very, very disappointed by how he opened up the state of the city. You got to read between the lines here, but the mayor does not need to be knocking the new administration in his opening 30 seconds of the state of the city.
The month of January was a very long year. In the course of the last few weeks,
and I hear that, and I'm like, he's probably talking about the weather, right? I actually laughed. I was like, oh, that's a good line. January was a very long year. Yeah, the weather stunk. We had snowstorms. He's got to clean up the city. It's one big mess. I'm like, that's a good line. But then it continued.
Over $30 million of grant awards to the city were put in jeopardy. 30,000 federal workers and contractors in Kansas City and our surrounding areas were made to feel anxious about their career futures. And too many of our neighbors were made to feel fearful. Fearful about their ability to remain in our city and to thrive. Fearful that programs to bring more Kansas Cityans to an inclusive table of shared opportunity, like where I just was before with Variety KC, could be gutted by broad actions that marginalize millions from the right to a fair shot.
Oh, break out the freaking violin. My gosh. Okay, yeah, there are federal workers around the region who, yes, if you're not good at your job and you don't know what you do, it's the old clip from The Office that we played the other day. What do you do around here? Trying to make up something that sounds really important. Yeah, guess what? The federal budget needs to be pared down. Sorry, that's a fact. There's 2 million federal workers. We've got $36 trillion in debt and a $1.8 trillion deficit. I know anybody in government doesn't like to view themselves as having to do what the private sector does, which is when you're not meeting your budget, you got to figure out a way to cut it. That's how the real world works. And that's what's going on right now in D.C. And then the immigration line, we've got neighbors who are fearful. No neighbor needs to be fearful right now unless you are here illegally, in which case you have knowingly broken a law of the United States. And yes, that is something that under this administration you should be fearful for, especially if you're somebody who is here who has committed a crime while being here. Then yes, you definitely should be fearful. But guess what? Kansas Cityans can also be fearful of having to live in neighborhoods where people may be here illegally who have committed violent acts and have not been caught or deported yet. They're allowed to feel that way too. And guess what? Those people don't live in my neighborhood. They don't live in the mayor's backyard, his neighborhood. They live in neighborhoods of the poorest and most vulnerable people in Kansas City. So I heard the opening 30 seconds and I just threw my hands up and I'm like, come on, man. I thought until Fox News pulled them away, we were going to have this great conversation yesterday about rebranding the Democratic Party, but you can't start a state of the city by going after the Trump administration. You can't do that. You're becoming part of the problem that you insist you want to fix. And I think he wants to fix it. So I'm like, who the heck wrote this thing? And did anybody review it before the guy took the podium yesterday? Like, what are we doing here? I understand that most major American cities have mayors who are Democrats. I get it. But if you guys and gals think that the resistance is the play right now, you're going out of the 2017 playbook, and I promise you, it's not going to work this time around for you.
Well, if you expected something different, let me save about 7 calls here and say, silly, naive Pete. Quentin's Quentin.
No.
That's what I'll hear.
See, I'm fine. I'm here at 913-408-7957. I'm here for you. You can slam dunk on me all you want. And maybe I'm having this soft spot this week. I've had sick kids. Maybe I'm becoming a softie with 3 little girls. I don't know. But I'm just expecting people that I know can be better than this, be better than this.
That's reasonable.
And I'm getting let down. Not digging it. 913-408-7957. It's good to be here on a Red Friday on KCMO. Now, speaking of one of those big-time issues, where are the American people at on one of the signature stories this week? And what's happening in the Kansas and Missouri area on that front? We'll get to right after the news on KCMO 95.7 FM.
If it's happening in KCMO, it's on KCMO 95.7 FM. Here's Pete Mundo.
You know, we just wrapped up the conversation around how the mayor gave a state of the city, and 30 seconds in, he's bagging on Trump. It's like, man, I get the city didn't vote for Donald Trump, but there is a mandate from the American people, so let's be careful. Let's pick and choose our spots. The state of the city is simply about what's going on in this town, what are you doing about it, and how are you going to improve things over the next 12 months? That's it. Let's not open it up by ragging on Trump here, all right? And that's part of what happened yesterday. I was very disappointed by that. But one of the major issues where you are seeing a huge cultural shift is on the issue of whether or not biological men should be competing in women's sports, right? And 2 days ago, Trump signs this executive order, and it was a home run. Now, in Kansas and Missouri, it wasn't as big of a deal because we already have state laws that were signed going on 2 years ago by the legislature against biological men competing in women's sports. So it really wasn't about us in Kansas and Missouri. It was about a Trump executive order that applied to, other states, NCAA. So suddenly now the colleges have to figure out what to do about this. That's what the EO executive order was about a couple of days ago. But either way, it was a huge deal. It was one of the top stories of the week as the executive orders keep just kind of cranking out left and right. And with that, CNN, I played this clip yesterday, and I was blown away to their credit that they played it. But it also tells you how if you are a mayor in a major American city here in Kansas City or anywhere else for that matter, you got to realize this is not 2020. This is not 2021. The American people have woken up from their woke slumber.
I think these numbers are really illuminating on this topic because I just think there's such a clear trend among the American public. So transgender female athletes in women's sports, only 18% of the country says that they should be, in fact, allowed to participate in women's sports. Compare this to the opposition. I mean, my goodness gracious, 79%. You rarely get 79% of the country to agree on anything, but they do, in fact, agree on the idea of opposing transgender female athletes in women's sports. But it's not just the here and now, Laura. It's not just the here and now. What we're actually seeing is a trend on this particular issue, and it's going in the direction of opposition. So take a look here. Okay, transgendered female athletes, and amongst those Americans who oppose them in women's sports. Back in 2021, it was 62%. A majority, but, not anywhere close to a ginormous majority, right? A clear majority, but not a ginormous majority. But then again, you look here in 2025, you see it at 79%. So it's not just that the majority of Americans are opposed to transgender female athletes in women's sports. It's that the opposition has become considerably larger in just the last 4 years.
And how much larger has it grown? Well, tremendously, over 25%, right? 62% in 2021 of Americans opposed dudes hanging out in women's locker rooms and playing sports against them. That number is now 79%. That's a 17-point increase on 62%. That's over 25% increase in the last 4 years. It is not even close. But amazingly, there are still some of you, and I'm seeing it right now in the text line, who are like, Pete, this is such common sense. But if I were to walk into my workplace today and say, yeah, I don't think that biological men should compete against women, people would look at me like I'm crazy. I'd have to whisper that in the corner of the office. Just know, common sense is on your side. It is. And the polling overwhelmingly is on your side. And here in Kansas and Missouri, we have had these laws in place for the last couple of years. So it's really not an issue for us right now. Now, there haven't been some massive outbreak of things to deal with on this front, thank goodness. But that's not why you make laws, right? One of the major pushbacks I've seen this week on the executive order is, there's like 72 cases of this nationwide. Your point is what? I don't think there's a lot of cannibalism going on around the country, but pretty sure it's still illegal for a reason. Doing what is right is not about how frequently the wrong happens. You do the right thing because it's the right thing. And as the father of 3 daughters, I'm not going to sit here and say, I don't know about that law because what are the odds that it impacts one of my daughters? What are the odds it impacts my kids? So, yeah, we'll focus on other stuff. Nah, especially when you have an opposition, politically speaking at least, that is literally trying to tell you something that is inherently untrue. That somehow somebody who has male anatomy should be readily able and allowed to compete against women. And I know right now, as a 3-time girl dad, I ain't down with that. And I know many of you aren't as well. Steven's in Kansas City. What's up, big dog? Good morning. Go ahead. Happy Friday.
P, you did a magnificent job yesterday. They're going to have some lame pep rally with Al Roker today, but you guys put him to shame. That was magnificent.
Oh,
yesterday.
Is that right? Is Al Roker doing a little thing? What, is he handed out Manjaro or something? What's he doing?
I don't know. They're going to have some liberal pep rally. And yesterday, I mean, that was just the best of Kansas City. We should have it every year. We should just do that again, what you guys did yesterday. It was fantastic. I wish I knew about it in advance. I would have driven over.
I would have loved to have met you, Steve. That would have been a hoot. That would have been a hoot,
you
man.
Bet.
Go ahead. What's on your mind?
The cowards of all cowards yesterday, the NCAA flipped. I mean, the culture is changing, and that was a great clip there. I think it was Scott Jennings that said that is Trump 2.0. We're taking all the 79 80-20 issues and flipping them, and Mayor Q, the mayor has no choice but defend the undefendable, because he probably wants to succeed Frank White, or get another job. So if it's political jujitsu, like on trans sports, they have to defend it. If you keep picking 80-20 issues, and the people will just turn against them for decades.
Here's what it's going to take.
We'll be elected. It's great.
It's going to take someone, and the problem is, I was going to say Barack Obama, but the problem is he's even losing some juice now in his own party. I don't know who the face of the party is. I would still say it's Obama, but like I said, he's losing some of that juice. But it's going to take someone like him or a half dozen powerful people in the Democratic Party to say, you know what? We're done with this. We agree men should not compete against women in sports. That's what it's going to take for then the Quentin Lucases of the world or anybody else down the aisle, down the political spectrum, to say, okay, all right, we're clear to at least say this is absurd and ridiculous, because 80% of the American people disagree with us.
The juicy rumor in the tabloid today was that they wanted Michelle Obama to run, and now Barack is divorcing him. They thought that she was going to be the savior instead of Kamala. But you're exactly right. They have to find another Bill Clinton, and he ain't out there, and he ain't coming through that door. So go Chiefs. God bless you.
Go Chiefs. You got a score real quick. Give me a score, Steve. He's gone. He's out. Mic drop. I'm not going to speak on what's going on with the Obamas. I'll leave that to somebody else.
Well, to your point, when Quentin Lucas's claim is to be the Aldi brand Obama, unfortunately, Obama is the Aldi brand Obama. Right?
That's right. Obama's turned himself into the Aldi brand version of 2008 Obama. I mean, the guy just got his clock cleaned. He had to go to bat for Kamala Harris for the last few months. I'd be hiding too. My goodness. After I dragged old Pops across the finish line there 4 years ago now. Jeez. Coming up next, the 6 at 6. Top 6 stories to know in the 6 o'clock hour. We'll get to, and then we got our buddy Kendall Gammon on the game on Sunday at 7. And next hour, Mike Kehoe, Missouri governor, and Harris Faulkner from Fox News. She's rooting for the Chiefs. They're all coming up on 95.7 FM.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
As we roll till 7 o'clock on KCMO, it is one of our favorite times of the morning.
It's time for the 6 at 6 on 95.7 KCMO Talk Radio.
Top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour. You got to know as you get going this morning. Story number 1 is an absolute tragedy. Kansas City sports anchor Adam Manzano has died in New Orleans while on assignment to cover Super Bowl 59. He was there on behalf of Telemundo Kansas City and Tico Sports. He was found dead inside of his New Orleans hotel room. Right now, this is under investigation by law enforcement in New Orleans, and we do not know what happened. We have a statement from his television general manager, Steve Downing, saying Adam was a true professional and a rising star who exemplified excellence in his work. We will deeply miss Adam and his passion for sports and the contributions he made to the local community. So Adam Manzano, anchor and reporter for KGKC Telemundo Kansas City, has died. And the saddest part of this whole thing, he's originally from Mexico City, moved to Topeka, graduated from Kansas State in the last few years. He was 27 years old, and he leaves behind a young daughter. And this comes almost 1 year to the day after his wife died in a car accident last April. So his child is now an orphan at 1 year old. Just absolute tragedy down in New Orleans. And I won't speculate on what happened, but it sounds like whatever was going on down there, funny business, who knows? But we got to keep on the story to see what exactly took place down there. That resulted in Telemundo Kansas City TV reporter Adam Manzano dying at the age of 27 in his hotel room. Story number 2 for the 6 at 6. Mayor Quentin Lucas gave his annual State of the City address yesterday. And one of the big takeaways in this State of the City was that he noted the Royals are looking at Washington Square Park for their new stadium. It's only a few acres right next to Union Station, just basically due east of Union Station. It's not a big space. You can't possibly have all the amenities that they want to have when it comes to restaurants and hotels and bars and things like that. But if you just want to have a downtown feel for a stadium, I suppose it might work. But we don't really know what the Royals are going to do. But the mayor alluding to the fact that they are looking at that location at least gives us something when right now we have absolutely nothing to latch onto with the Royals in particular on what their next move might be for a stadium. So that's something to keep a very close eye on, and we will do that here on KCMO Talk Radio. But I'll tell you what, the State of the City's got to be moved. If the mayor really wants people to be paying attention to his State of the City, you can't make it Super Bowl week knowing full well there's a pretty good shot this team's going to be in the Super Bowl. I mean, push it to 2 weeks from now. Not a big deal. Just move it off a couple of weeks. That's all. Or move it forward a couple of weeks. Either way. Story number 3. This came down early this morning. An airplane has vanished in Alaska carrying 10 people. There's a desperate search underway this morning in Alaska for a plane carrying 10 people that vanished yesterday afternoon. The flight operated by Bering Air was traveling in Western Canada when its position was lost about 12 miles offshore, according to the U.S. Coast Guard. Data from flight radar shows that the plane was last reporting info at 3:16 p.m. local time over the Norton Sound. And then it just disappeared. And as of this morning, that plane has yet to be found. Now, it's a small airline, similar to the one that obviously crashed in Philadelphia 1 week ago tonight. But this is now 3 plane incidents in the last week and a half. Of course, the biggest one was the Wichita American Airlines flight that collided with the Black Hawk last Wednesday. But still, people are on heightened alert with planes right now. And this is certainly a story to keep an eye on because this plane just vanished. No one knows where it is. And that's scary in and of itself. Story number 4 for the 6 at 6. USAID to be reduced to about 290 foreign service officers and civil servants from the more than 5,000 employees under the new executive order. So this came down yesterday from the Trump administration. Most of the approximately 3,000 institutional support contractors have already been fired or furloughed. The status of the approximately 5,000 foreign service nationals serving around the world is not yet clear, but they are reining in USAID. Thousands of employees learned they would be placed on administrative leave starting at 11:59 p.m. Friday through a message that was posted on USAID.gov, and USAID personnel overseas were given 30 days to return to the United States. So that is something that I'm sure will cause some uproar in some corners, but this is part of, what Donald Trump was elected to do, frankly. And that is look at every single bloated bureaucracy and figure out what is a necessity and what is just waste. I don't know if these people are all waste. I'm not saying that they are. But you know what? If you're a private business and you were in the kind of debt the country's in, you'd scrape it down to the bones and figure out how do we rebuild this thing if we have to. And that's what this administration is doing right now. Story number 5 for the 6 at 6. Let's go down to the Sunshine State. Ron DeSantis' wife, Casey DeSantis, is considering a run for Florida governor. That's right. Now, Casey DeSantis would be running theoretically in 2026. Ron won his reelection back in 2022. But Republican donors gathered last week in Palm Beach County and discussed the prospect of Casey DeSantis running for governor in 2026. And according to multiple reports, she is seriously considering the idea. Ron, of course, cannot run again due to term limits, and his wife has been very active politically. She is formerly a TV anchor. She was good on the campaign trail. There's a lot of people who said when Ron was running for president that, frankly, she was better at it than he was. He was a little stiff, a little awkward, a little clunky. She was smooth. She was calm and collected. So she may ultimately be the better retail politician than he is, and this is certainly something to keep an eye on. And then story number 6 for the 6 at 6. The NCAA continuing to get neutered. And no, this is not about the new transgender executive order. This is about the Power Four conferences creating and starting to begin the process of building their own organization that basically oversees what's happening in college sports. There's no name for it yet, but the Power Four conferences are now, according to Yahoo Sports, going to build this adjacent and intertwined operation with the NCAA that will determine how college athletics are policed, getting rid of the NCAA-controlled process of investigations, enforcement, things like that. So that is something to keep a very close eye on, and we will as those reports roll out on KCMO. There's your 6 at 6, top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour. Kendall Gammon, former Chiefs player, joins us on the Super Bowl next. doesn't get better than this. We're getting spoiled. You know, Kendall Gammon's tenure on KCMO every year ends whenever the season ends. And for the last now 3 years, it has continued on through the middle of February. So Kendall Gammon is here, former Chiefs player, our Chiefs analyst on KCMO. The conversation is brought to you by Xfinity. Stream sports from the best seat in the house with Xfinity. Bring on the good stuff. Kendall, 2 days before a Super Bowl, what is the team doing right now with 2 weeks build up to this game? They've done all this media. They're trying to prep for a game. They're trying to keep it normal. But what is really going on with 48 hours to go?
Well, there's absolutely no such thing as normal when you're getting ready for the Super Bowl. So they've had to be available each day this week for media. And, you know, you're going out to the practice field. They're practicing in Tulane areas and practice facilities. And you're just going through walkthroughs and you're continuing to study. You're continuing to look at game film and just see if you can find some edge mentally on what's going on. But as far as the really physical work, you've done that already. You've got to take care of your body. You understand you're getting done a little bit earlier than you normally would during the week, and you've got family around probably. It's very crazy, but then it starts to set in about now that you're like, okay, it's time. And, you know, this is what I've been playing for my whole life, my whole year long. And it's hard to put on words. I don't know if I did a very good job of it, but it is truly amazing.
Can you believe it was 29 years ago that you were playing in Super Bowl 30? Does it feel like it was that long ago?
Oh man, yes and no. I mean, it is crazy. It's a lifetime ago for sure. So I don't remember a lot about the game. There's a few plays here and there, a few things that we've talked about. But yeah, it is crazy when I think about it.
Well, I don't know if you saw this, Kendall, but there was a story in the Wall Street Journal this week headlined "The Biggest Mystery of the Super Bowl: Do the Chiefs Have a Secret Playbook?" And the article goes on to note there's a reason Kansas City starts playing like a completely different team every time the postseason rolls around. It's because they're using plays they've kept hidden all season long. You know, we hear about teams being vanilla in the preseason, but typically teams aren't good enough to be vanilla during the regular season. Are the Chiefs just that good? Do you think that there is some accuracy to that with Andy Reid? What do you think the reality is, and how many plays get broken out exclusively for the postseason?
There is some accuracy to it, I believe, in terms of you do have plays. As far as a whole playbook, no, not even close. But yeah, there are things that I think you do say back. You know, Big Red even alluded to it with the play that clinched the AFC Championship. I think was to P. Ryan, and he said that's, you know, you have a play in your pocket that you feel good about, that you and the coaches have talked about, that this is your number one play if you have to have it when the game's on the line. So you have things like that, and all the coaches do this. It's not just the Chiefs. I think just the Chiefs and Andy Reid do it better, but you do have a little bit. But to say it's this whole big playbook, anything like that, that would be incorrect in my opinion.
Fair enough. Now, you look at this game this weekend, and what is the biggest concern that you have for the Chiefs going into the game against the Eagles?
Oh, it's Saquon Barkley and stopping the run. I mean, he's silly, the type of year he had. I mean, kudos to him and the Eagles for getting him. He is a difference maker. I mean, his touchdown runs, I forget what the average is, but I think it's just something crazy. And he's somebody that can change the game. And so if that's the case, I've got to believe that the Chiefs, you know, are going to say, listen, we understand. It's kind of Michael Jordan. You understand that he's going to get his to a degree, but you can't let him beat you. If the Chiefs lose, I think in their mind, they're thinking, if we're going to lose, it's going to be because Jalen Hurts beat us passing the ball. And I don't think they believe that. They don't want to let the rushing attack of Saquon Barkley be the reason. But that being said, it's easier said than done.
I was going to say they've got some pretty good wide receivers, though. So how confident do you think Spags is in leaving some of those guys on an island against a pretty good wide receiving core for Philadelphia?
You know what? It's a fair statement, Pete. And I don't know how confident he is, but I think he sees Saquon as the bigger threat. And yeah, Jalen Hurts can throw, but not like Saquon can run. And I would say this: if the Chiefs had the chance or the ability somehow to get up by more than one score a little bit later on, I don't believe the Eagles are really built to come back. So that would be huge. But you're right, Devontae Smith. I think Dallas Goedert is the big one when you look at it. Who's got an issue? But AJ Brown also. I mean, that's a threesome that's pretty impressive. And let's not forget that this is a very nice, very good offensive line of Philadelphia.
Yeah, it is. No doubt about it. Kendall Gammon is here, our Chiefs analyst, former player on KCMO, ahead of Super Bowl Sunday coming up this weekend. The offensive line for the Chiefs going up against a very stout Eagles defensive line led by Jalen Carter, who apparently is battling an illness. I don't know what that means for Sunday, but we'll set that aside. What do you think Andy Reid's offensive game plan is going to look like, knowing full well that he's got some weaknesses at the tackles? We've known them all season long, and they may be facing the best D-line they've seen all season.
I think oftentimes in my my career when I was around coaches and you had great defensive linemen or edge rushers who were just really, really explosive, oftentimes you understood that they were going to get pressure up the field. And so you started wham blocking a little bit, which is to say you pull somebody from one side or the other, and now they're not getting hit from the front. They're getting through a little bit, and then they've got a hit coming from one side or the other to make them, a little bit more shaky in terms of where's it coming from, what's going on. You try to throw as much at them so they're not as sure. You hope that you can get them on their heels a little bit, but again, these are full-grown men, and you mentioned Jalen Carter is a one-man wrecking crew, so that's an issue. He normally would line up over our right guard, which is Trey Smith, but you've got to believe that they put something into where he's over on the other side with Caliendo. And I'm not getting on Caliendo, but he was the backup. He's come in now because Tooney's went to left tackle, and if there is a weak link in this line, it is him. And so I would have to believe that this defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, would try to exploit that a little bit if possible.
Mm-hmm. And let's be honest, Tooney's not as good of a tackle as he is a guard, right? So that's a factor here as well.
No, you're exactly right. No, he's not, but he's the best case the scenario that they have right now, and it is. That's the issue that the Chiefs have on the offensive line, and they've been dealing with it.
All right, Kendall Gammon on KCMO. Well, Kendall, what are you thinking for Sunday, Super Bowl 59? Give us a score ahead of the game, my man.
Yeah, I've been all week. I haven't been back and forth because I just think you can't bet against Patrick Mahomes and what he's done. I mean, the history is there, and I think I think this is the under. I'm not sure, but I've got like 27-24 Chiefs, and actually I forget what the over-under is, so that may be wrong. But anyhow, I see the Chiefs winning somehow. I think they have the advantage in the kicking game as well, and I think having Harrison Butker on the team and getting a field goal late is going to be the difference.
Well, that is the over, by the way. It's sitting there at 48.5 points. So you're liking the Chiefs to cover, and you're going to take the over on the 48.5.
I am. Yeah, I am.
Well,
I see it happening.
Let's hope the Chiefs make you look like a genius come Monday morning when we have you back on the show. Sound good?
It sounds good. Hey, I should mention one thing also. Jared Allen was elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame last night. So a former Chief going in. That's great news, I think, for him. And I was around him or talked with him earlier this year. So congratulations to Jared Allen.
Thank you for noting that. That's definitely a big deal. So good stuff there. We appreciate it, Kendall, and go Chiefs. We'll talk to you Monday.
Sounds good, Pete. Take care.
All right. Kendall Gammon, always great to have him on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We got Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe in 20 minutes. Harris Faulkner from Fox News will be here as well at the end of the hour. Of course, she has deep ties to Kansas City. She's got to have her Chiefs red on today when the Faulkner Focus comes on later this morning. If not, we're going to give her a hard time. So she will be here at the end of the hour on KCMO Talk Radio. Did you see Patrick Mahomes owning a U.S. Senator yesterday? Oh, this is gold. We'll share it next.
On Friday's Guy Benson Show, we have our friend Kennedy in the house joining us. Michelle Tafoya previewing the Super Bowl coming up at 2 o'clock on 95.7 KCMO.
Patrick Mahomes owning a U.S. Senator is the kind of content you need on a Friday ahead of Super Bowl 59. Good morning. Glad you're here on 95.7 FM. Happy Red Friday. The boys are all in their Chiefs red. Mark's got his Kelsey jersey on. John, what do you got on? The Mahomes jersey there, my man? All right. John's got the Mahomes jersey on, and I've got the old Butker jersey on. Let's go. Woo! That's right. We'll get a photo afterwards and post it on the KCMO Talk Radio. We'll put it on what? Facebook, X, and Instagram. How about that, Mark?
All three.
All right. You got that covered for us after the show? Now, speaking of Mahomes, this came up in the last couple of days between Trump, Tommy Tuberville, the U.S. Senator from Alabama, and Mahomes. So when Trump was signing the executive order on Wednesday to prevent dudes from playing in women's sports, he saw Tommy Tuberville in the front row, and like Trump does, he went off script. You know, he sees Tommy and something comes to his mind, and he just starts talking about Tommy Tuberville. So here is what Trump had to say a day and a half ago to Tommy Tuberville.
And Tommy Tuberville, a great coach. You know, his quarterback was named Mahomes. He was a great college coach. And I said, how good was he? He said, you don't want to know how good. He made me into a great coach. He's pretty good quarterback, right? Yeah, he was very good.
Okay, well, that's not true. Tommy Tuberville was not the head coach at Texas Tech when Patrick Mahomes was there. It's just now, Tommy Tuberville was the head coach at Texas Tech. He left for Cincinnati, and then Cliff Kingsbury became the head coach. Cliff is a Tech alum. Of course, he's now the Washington Commanders offensive coordinator. He's been a head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. He's an offensive whiz. He was a bad head coach for the most part. I think he had one good year with Arizona. At Texas Tech, the guy had Patrick Mahomes, and he stunk. He couldn't coach defense to save his life. Great offensive mind, though. I mean, Mahomes was putting up 60 points a game. They would lose like 63-60 to like, you know, Baylor and TCU and everybody else in the Big 12. But it wasn't because of the offense. It was just because he couldn't coach defense. So Mahomes never played for Tommy Tuberville. Now, Trump might have misspoke there. Who knows? But Tommy Tuberville then got asked about this on Megyn Kelly's show yesterday, and here's what he said.
Last question. So does this mean, since you used to coach Patrick Mahomes, that you're rooting for the Chiefs at the big game this Sunday?
Well, I never even coached him. What happened is I recruited him, and then I left and went to another school. But I've got to be very good friends with him.
So Tommy walks back Trump's comments, and he goes, well, I never really coached him, but I recruited him. So Patrick Mahomes gets asked about this yesterday by the media. And listen, Patrick's not going to be the guy that just takes a big old steamer on someone. It's just not who he is. But in his very Mahomes way, he did that in a very political way.
He did not recruit me at the time. So I don't remember if I ever got to meet him or not.
You get the idea.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever got to meet him or not. Meantime, Tuberville's telling Megyn Kelly, oh, yep, this is great. Yeah, we become good friends. And don't forget, no one at Texas Tech likes Tommy Tuberville. The story goes that Tommy Tuberville was at dinner on a Friday night as the head coach of Texas Tech with a bunch of high school recruits. You know this story, Mark, as a college football fan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Tuberville is apparently at dinner with a bunch of high school recruits. He gets up at dinner, takes a phone call, and never comes back. The next morning, Saturday morning, he is announced as the head coach of the Cincinnati Bearcats. Now, when Tuberville was running for Senate, he denied this story. He says he picked up the check, everybody was done eating, and he just walked out. You believe what you want to believe. I don't believe Tommy Tuberville, to be honest. I don't care what his politics are. He may have the same politics as me. I don't care. I do not believe that story. What Why a recruit would randomly make that up, multiple recruits would make that up, I don't know. And the notion that a story about a head coach actually picking up the tab and then just walking out with everybody else versus the recruits claiming that he literally walked out in the middle of dinner, left us with an assistant coach, and never came back. That is just too unbelievable to potentially make up. So Tommy Tuberville, I know a lot of people in the Senate, and, he's on TV because he's the old ball coach. I wouldn't trust that guy as far as I could throw him, okay? I would not. There's no way.
You could kind of hear it in Mahomes' voice. He's told the story before. Nobody really recruited him. Like, Kingsbury was one of the only ones.
He was only a 3-star prospect.
Mm-hmm. People thought he was going to play baseball.
Yes, he was drafted to play Major League Baseball at one point. He went to Tech because he could play both sports, and then he gave it up. And his high school coach, Adam Cook, from White House, Texas, has been on this show multiple times and told that story here on KCMO. Kingsbury's the only guy who really saw something in him when it came to, top programs, giving the guy a chance. And even Texas Tech, let's be honest, is not going to be considered a blue blood program by any stretch of the imagination. But you got to love Mahomes in a very Mahomes-ish way, basically calling Tommy Tuberville a flat-out liar. Coming up, he's not a liar. He's a good guy. He's the governor of Missouri. Mike Kehoe is next. And then Harris Faulkner of Fox News on KCMO.
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
Well, it's the ultimate Red Friday in Kansas City, and we're happy to welcome on and say good morning to Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe joining us on 95.7 FM. Governor, great to have you on the show as always. How are you feeling down there in mid-Missouri right now, getting ready for Sunday?
Well, Pete, it's always great to be on with you. Thank you so much. We're ready for the Chiefs win. You know, it's going to be a three-peat. I think folks know that, so I'm excited to get to watch the game and cheer on a win on Sunday.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Hopefully it's going to be a good one for that three-peat. Yesterday, you may have seen that Mayor Lucas gave his state of the city. And, of course, there's a lot of attention on what's going to be happening going forward with our sports teams. You and I have spoken plenty about that. One thing he said here about you, he said, I believe that Governor Kehoe, his Department of Economic Development of the state of Missouri, have hit the ground running fairly quickly. What can you share in addition to those comments your first couple of weeks in office, and what conversations you have had when it comes to the future of these two teams?
Well, it's mainly what you and I have talked about before. First, I think, Governor Parson and his team were working on this very much for several months, so we don't want to dismiss the efforts they made. We certainly have met with our economic development team and other leaders and team owners, et cetera, in the Kansas City area. We're going to put our best foot forward. As I've told you all along, it's got to be a good return for Missouri taxpayers. We can't just throw dump trucks of money at cash at people for any business, but for that economic development piece that we want, which is the impact those teams make on our state, specifically in the Kansas City region, we're going to fight very hard to make sure they make Missouri home, and I feel good about our conversations.
Have you been asked for anything yet by either team?
No, I wouldn't say officially. It's all been at a high level. We've worked with Speaker Patterson, of course, as the Speaker of the House in the Kansas City area, as well as Senator O'Loughlin, the pro tem of the Senate, and budget leaders about, what various economic development tools we already have in our toolbox. Can any of those be modified? What can we do to make sure we're competitive and understand the economic impact that those teams have to our state? So that mainly have been conversations trying to figure out which tools we put on the table. What are they exactly looking for? What do they exactly need? Where do they exactly want to go and grow? And then how can we help accomplish that? Again, maintaining a good return on investment.
Do you feel, are you sitting here today, since we haven't talked about it in several weeks, more confident or less confident that these teams will continue to make Missouri home?
Well, I think everybody is concentrating on the Chiefs winning on Sunday. So that goes for us and our administration as well. But very quickly after that win, we'll have a little bit more serious conversation. So we feel like we're in a good spot, but it's like any deal that you put together. You have to be on your toes every step of the way, and so we'll be there. Kansas is definitely competitive, but we want to make sure we give these teams the opportunity to stay here in Missouri.
Well, let's talk about your state of the state. Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe is on KCMO Talk Radio, shared that here in the last week or so, and the budget proposal is $53.7 billion. That's an increase of about $500 million. So at a time when your legislature wants to get rid of the income tax, how are you justifying increasing spending when there's also potentially going to be tax cuts coming the way of Missourians?
Yeah, there's some essential service things that is hard to curtail, and there's still some federal money, Pete, in there that's funding some of those increases that we won't have in the future. And we've told our budget folks and leaders in both the House and Senate that we're leaving a little over $1.5 billion on the bottom line in our budget proposal. And the next couple of years are going to get even tougher. So that spending is going to continue to come down. And some of those are obligations from years past and various programs that we're continuing to fill out. But we're going to continue to cut spending down so that we can get to the point where taxes can be put back in Missourians' pockets. You've seen us cut taxes from 6% to 4.7% without, hurting services such as public safety, et cetera. So there's a will, there's a way, and we feel like we're going to try to get to a plan that keep money back in Missourians' pockets.
We know inflation's a real thing, but I looked it up this morning, and Missouri's total budget for fiscal year 2015 was $26 billion, We're now more than double that. Is this a sustainable path for Missouri?
Yeah, but if you look at the general revenue growth, now general revenue has grown quite a bit, especially since I've been in the building, which is about the same time you looked at, maybe a little bit earlier. Most of our growth has come from federal and some one-time sources. And then there's some other things that grows that is dedicated taxes, whether it's the soil and water conservation tax, whether it's different things that go to MoDOT conservation, state parks, et cetera. Those are budget items that grow with the growth of the economy. So some of that growth is good. We want general revenue to grow. That means Missourians are working, they're spending their money, they're out there working. It's the federal money that's grown our budget the most over the last several years, certainly since COVID. And as we know, those are going to be coming down. And under the Trump administration, which I fully support, we're going to tighten the belt at a federal level. And there'll be some impact to the state, but we'll be better because of it.
Well, that's where, and you're right, because every state got this massive influx in cash, in the wake of COVID. So how do you balance saying, hey, all these states have largely increased spending to some degree because of these one-time payments, but they're not going to be there forever, right? So how tricky is that balance?
It is, and that's what I've told you all along. When we start looking at how we get back to no income tax, in the state of Missouri, it's going to be something that takes several years of people trying to balance out. It's not going to be a light switch where we just do it all of a sudden one day overnight. And that gives all those organizations opportunities to make sure they have the sufficient revenue stream from other sources, whatever that would be, to continue their operations. So those are conversations that everybody who's part of the budget process know is very passionate to me and to Missourians to make sure we let Missourians have a chance to spend their money, which we believe they can do better than any elected official any day of the week.
I'm sure you're well aware of, the experiment on the Kansas side. So you foresee any type of cut to zero being attached to meeting revenue goals? Is that how you foresee a phasing out of the income tax in Missouri?
Well, that's one of the plans going through the legislature right now is we call it the 509, Senate Bill 509 style triggers, which it triggers 0.1% lower an income tax for every certain amount of dollars in revenue growth. That's certainly one way to get there. There's several other options going through the House and Senate right now. Bishop Davidson and Representative Davidson and Senator Curtis Trent have an idea. There's several different ideas we're looking at to make sure what's responsible. We don't want to do what Kansas did, which is they went so fast that they just about blew the place up. Because I think we're better than Kansas in this case. Sorry to your Kansas listeners. And we're going to figure out a way that's the Missouri way that makes sense and also achieves putting more money, again, back in Missouri family pockets.
What do you think when it comes to a phase out? Is this something that you would want to see happen by the time you're out of office, or is there a longer plan where it's really just going to be about whether or not it fiscally makes sense? Have you thought that in your mind, and can you share that with Missourians right now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've definitely looked at different models on what it would take to do, and it depends on how you do the phase out. If you replace the revenue with something else, other states, as you know, have gone to a slightly increased version or widening what their sales tax base is. That's one of the bills working its way through the legislature. So it depends on which one of those models you take. Certainly, if you just want with general revenue growth, it will take more time than another option. So we've looked at all the different models, and again, it's something you have to continue to drive home to legislators and to Missourians. This is our goal. This is where we want to get to. Please help us by making sure we have folks in office that support this goal.
All right, Governor Kehoe, what is your score prediction for Sunday?
Well, the Chiefs are going to win, but I'm saying 31-17 is my number. And
31-17, okay.
Yeah, we have a bet going with the governor of Pennsylvania that will be announced later on today, and a lot of good Kansas City items in that bet, including some Gates barbecue sauce and Scott's Kitchen up by the airport in North Kansas City, one of my favorite rubs that you can get. Scott does a great job up there. So we're gonna have some good Missouri products, some Missouri beef, a little candy from St. Joseph, Missouri. But it doesn't matter. We're not going to have to give him that. I'm more concerned on what he's betting in for me.
I was going to say, what's he sending? That's all. That's what Missourians want to know. What's he sending this way?
I tried to. I asked him for a horse or a saddle or something, Pete. Because I wanted something that meant a lot to me. But I'm afraid it might be a big Hershey chocolate bar. I'm not sure what he's going to offer.
Yeah, it might be that. You're right. Well, be careful. That guy, he might have his eyes set on 2028. So be careful with that Josh Shapiro character. All right.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You're not the first person who's told me that. So I've made it very clear to him. He needs to pick something out that a Missourian would like.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you, Governor. We appreciate it. Go Chiefs, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, buddy. Always good to talk to you. Thank you.
All right. Mike Kehoe, Governor of Missouri on KCMO 95.7 FM. Our big game program, last chance to win. Text the keyword champs to 913-408-7957 to win that big game 59 program. Our friend Harris Faulkner, Fox News, will be here. She's all on board with Chiefs Kingdom. Coming up next.
Dave Ramsey here, and you're listening to Pete Mundo on KCMO Talk Radio, now airing on FM at 95.7.
Oh, those butterflies are starting to come through. Still over 48 hours to go until kickoff, Super Bowl 59. I see Tom Brady is live from New Orleans right now on Fox and Friends, but forget that because we've got Harris Faulkner from Fox News, who we missed yesterday when her colleague Steve Ducey was out here for the morning show. Good morning, Harris. How are you?
Good morning. You know what? I'm locked in. Like, I don't have the worry that everybody has because I want it to be a good competitive game. I want people to stop this whole narrative about the only reason the Chiefs are where they are is because of the referees. So I want the referees to be extra good at what they do and do their jobs, and as they always do, but everybody makes mistakes. But I want everybody to be locked in and just go out there and be the best version of yourself, both teams, and may the best team win.
You know,
because when you are about to make history, you deserve the space for people to let you do what you do.
I totally agree. And what do you think? I have a theory that this whole Chiefs hatred, which is beyond bizarre because they're highly likable, is really about people in a outraged social media world not wanting to watch greatness, not wanting to see greatness, and this victim mentality that exists in America in part in 2025. Do you think there's some of that going on, or is it something else?
Well, there's always a mix of stuff, right? I mean, I don't think that people are allergic to greatness because I know they watch you and they listen to you on the radio. So, and I saw pictures of you with Peter Ducey, and I was like, were you with Peter and Steve? Like, who gets family love? I don't even get that. So you're great. So greatness is not always the issue. But what I do think is what we saw with the Patriots, and you mentioned Tom on Fox and Friends just moments ago. Over the years, I remember when they got to be on their fourth or fifth Super Bowl win, people around the country were just tired of seeing the same. And if you think it was like that a decade or more ago, imagine with the Pop-Tart culture mixed with digital, okay? Because that's what I call America. Like, we just want everything quick and fast. And that helps us to be a world leader, yes. But it also makes our expectations a little bit off the charts at times. So you mix that in with digital world, and I think people's attention spans are just like rubber band fast. Like, just shoot it. Where did it go? I can't see it. And that's why their feelings switch so quickly. And are they being manipulated with clicks? Well, about everything they are. So that's a given. Greatness, I don't know if there's a whole lot of jealousy out there unless it's another football team. But I think that's what's driving it. And I just would say to people, well, wouldn't you rather see a team that's trying to do the most than just settle and sit on the sidelines? You know what we've seen this season, Pete? We've seen players get so aggravated they leave the field if they aren't winning. We've seen players, both NBA and NFL, pitch fits like toddlers. Like, I would much rather see a team where people are motivated to win. And that's for both sides of the ball. And if I could just be so bold with my faith for a second, okay, Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes talking about their faith, not just around their football game that's coming up, but a new baby ushered into the home via the Lord for the Mahomes and for the Mahomes family. And Jalen Hurts always with those, even at news conferences, with those words of wisdom about what keeps him grounded, and it's through his faith in Jesus Christ. I mean, I'm good. You know, I mean, that is the kind of thing that I want my kids to see. So we'll be watching, locked in.
It's going to be great. Harris Faulkner is here. Faulkner Focus coming up later this morning, of course, on Fox News. Deep ties to Kansas City. She'll be rooting for her Chiefs, of course, coming up on Sunday. And it's a big day for Fox. Big day for Fox. I see Brett Barris doing the interview with President Trump. He's going to be at the game as well, of course. First sitting president to do that. So who gets more airtime, Harris, Taylor Swift or President Trump?
Oh, I think President Trump. You know, didn't we learn a lesson about mixing politics too much in with other things? I took a lot of heat for saying this online and on TV. Look, my girls love Taylor Swift. Mm-hmm. My oldest, when she turned 16, my husband and I tapped that bank account and we're like, okay, well, which parent is going with her and her bestie? He got the short stick on that because it was a lot of girls. And I'm like, you're outnumbered. That's perfect. I would have gone, but it would have been a completely different appreciation experience. Like, hey, I'm at this awesome concert. He came home and he said that was the best concert he'd ever seen. And he's like a real dedicated concert goer. Like, that's his jam. So, and he goes to see like Billy Joel at Madison Square before that came to an end. I mean, we'll fly places for him to go see his favorite. He's very into the 1980s, but don't hold that against him.
Never.
But anyway, I do think that what we saw was when Taylor tapped her toe and said, "Oh, I love Kamala," blah, 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 blah. Yeah, people got kind of quiet. I noticed that her suite seat at the games, a little bit different configuration of people around her. Well, was it a coincidence she wasn't sitting with Brittany Mahomes for a while? I don't know. I'm just asking the questions as a journalist. But what I do know is Kamala didn't win. Trump got all the oxygen. I think that's what we'll see again.
Yeah, I think you're on something there for sure. No doubt about it. Harris Faulkner on KCMO. So I've just got two things I want to hit on here before we got to hit the top of the hour. What do you have planned for the show today? Are you going to be in your Chiefs red? What's the plan for the Faulkner Focus coming up later this morning, 10 o'clock Central?
All right, I'm going to be in my Chiefs red. It is also wear red today for the Association of Heart Disease. So every woman on Fox, as you're probably noticing. But I picked out my orangey red with ruffles and celebration a month ago.
Ah, yes.
So yes, we're all doing that for an amazing cause health-wise. But of course I'm in my Chiefs red. I am feeling it from the inside out. I'm telling you, they're going to do it. But again, let's all lock in, watch the game, as my husband says, with all your heart like you've been there.
And Fox News just had its best January ratings ever. I know the Faulkner Focus now numbered a big part of that. So congratulations on that, Harris. It's been, an amazing, amazing few weeks. And you guys are doing incredible work. So well done. And do you have a score for us on Sunday?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask about the show. Just real quickly, for the first time, anyone in cable has beaten a broadcast juggernaut like The View. And it has been over the years. The Faulkner Focus beat them for the month of January.
And I gave you a shout out on social media.
I want to say
amazing.
Thank you for bringing that up. And thank you to your viewers in Kansas City, your listeners in Kansas City, our viewers in Kansas City. I take a little bit of my home with me every day when I'm on the air, and I know you guys are watching, so God bless you. So I wanted to get that in. Score, I don't know. I don't do well with spreads. I just want our offense to do what the defense needs it to do. The defense has been there. Harrison Butker has been there. I often pick him as the most important player along with Chris Jones of every game. But I want our offense then to have those stars catch those balls that Mahomes will throw.
Well, I'm so glad you brought up The View because I remember seeing that last week on social media, and I had to give you a shout out because that literally made my week, seeing you beat The View like you did on Faulkner Focus. That is just awesome. So we love it here in Kansas City.
Thank you.
You know that we got your back here in KC, Harris. So thank you. Go Chiefs, and have a great rest of the week and a great show this morning.
Go Chiefs!
Love it.
Bye, Pete.
See you later. Harris Faulkner, we love having her on 95.7 FM. She does an incredible job, and we're so happy for all of her success on Fox News. Just rocking and rolling on that show coming up at 10 o'clock Central Time. Well, Trump has just tweeted about the Super Bowl and the Chiefs. We'll share it after the news and the new jobs report.
KCMO, Kansas City's place to talk. On 95.7 FM and 710 AM.
Well, is President Trump rooting for the Chiefs? You tell me. You just might have seen this Truth Social post that just dropped from President Trump, and I will read it to you here, and then you tell me what you think he's doing. That's a dicey spot because he can't go anti-Eagles, right? Pennsylvania is a swing state. I know he's a, lame duck president. He doesn't have to win again, but still, he's not going to go out there and start trashing the Eagles. He can't do that right now. But he did just post this on social media moments ago, and I'll share it with you here on KCMO. Donald Trump writing, quote, "Two great quarterbacks in this game. Also, an unbelievable running back. And the absolute best tight end in football ever." How about that? Shout out to Travis Kelce. Incredible coaching. If they would only get rid of that really weird-looking new kickoff deal, which actually makes football more dangerous, they would be doing everybody, especially the fans, a big favor. Now all caps. Anyway, it will be a great game. 4 exclamation points. I'll be doing the interview before the game at 3 o'clock p.m. There hasn't been one in 4 years. Parentheses. Gee, I wonder why.
Come on, man. Such a nice man.
Oh, that's great. Now, Trump was asked this week by Peter Ducey of Fox News who he's got in the game, and here's what he said.
President Trump,
guys, let's go.
Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
Thank you.
I don't want to say, but there's a certain quarterback that seems to be a pretty good winner.
I love that growl when he gets in the I don't want to say.
I don't want to say.
But there's a pretty good quarterback. He's a winner. He's a winner. Well, he's not talking about Jalen Hurts there. I'll tell you that right now. I don't think he's talking about Carson Wentz. There's one guy he's talking about. Patrick Mahomes was asked about this yesterday, and here's what he said.
Yeah, I mean, it's always cool to be able to play in front of a sitting president, someone that is at the top position in our country. And so I didn't see that clip, but obviously it's cool to hear that he's seen me play football and respects the game that I play.
So I don't know about you guys, but I feel like that they've been coached to use that phrase, sitting president. Mark, do you remember yesterday we played the Kelce clip?
Mm-hmm.
Can you, and I hate to put you on the spot, but do we have that? It's probably, you know what? I'll grab it for you real fast. I'll put it where you need it here from yesterday's show. But I feel like Kelce used that same phrase. Here, I'll put it in the 805 block for you. Sitting president. I feel like they were coached on that phrase. And I'm okay with it. It's fine. They're just clearly not trying to offend anybody, right? That's what they're attempting to do, I think, by using the phrase, yeah, it's always great to have the sitting president there. They don't want to say Trump because if they say Trump, oh, no, we can't say it's great to have Trump there. That might be misinterpreted by some people. So here is Kelce yesterday.
It's a great honor. I think, no matter who the president is, I know I'm excited because it's the biggest game of my life, and having the president there, it's the best country in the world. So
he didn't use the phrase sitting, but either way, they're not referring to Trump by name. I'm not insulted by that. I don't think you should be insulted by that. I think what they're trying to do is just keep it apolitical by saying it's great to have the president, the sitting president. And I'm not going to sit here and be outraged by that, and I don't think anybody should be, John.
Well, that's basically the sign of respect that you should have for the office. Because
Yeah.
I don't really see him saying, "Oh, I'm glad Biden's coming."
Yeah,
and not because of the politics. You just don't refer to the president by the last name in that reference.
I
think,
agree.
Right?
Yeah, even if it's like, well, President
yeah.
Trump or President
Anybody.
Biden, just say, hey, yeah, it's great to have the president there. It's cool. It's all good. We're fine with that.
I don't think anybody will be boycotting a trip to the White House if they win.
No. Maybe Taylor? Gosh, they've got to win because we've got to see this drama unfold.
No, the players at least.
No, I don't think the players will. We need the drama and the intrigue of this Chiefs team winning and going to the White House and seeing the interactions with Trump, Clark Hunt, Andy Reid, Mahomes, Kelce, Butker,
Mayor Lucas.
Oh, yeah. You think he'll be there if they win? You think he'll get invited?
Oh, yeah, they sit in the, Alfred was there last year. Laura Kelly was there.
I know. Yeah, you're right. They probably will be there. Let's just put it this way. I don't think Q's getting a lot of prime time selfie stuff going on there. I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see. Jonathan, Kansas City, go ahead. You're on KCMO.
I kind of like this because, I grew up in the 1990s, and that's one of the things that made the 90s great was, no depoliticization of sports, the Michael Jordan rule. Republicans buy sneakers too, and, I don't want to hear politics from my sports people. If I want politics, I'll go to MSNBC, CNN, or Fox. I don't need to see politics when I'm watching sports to try to escape.
I'm with you, man. I don't need Mahomes. Well said. I don't need Mahomes going out there and he's got a little MAGA hat or something under his podium and he rips it out. I can't wait for Trump on Sunday. Woo! Like, no, Woo! I don't need that. I'm cool with that not happening. I think these guys have handled it perfectly thus far. Now, we'll see what happens on Sunday, whether or not Trump gets more airtime than Taylor Swift. I'm starting to think that Taylor's going to eke out the win there. She got like 54 seconds out of 4 hours and 8 minutes last year. I still think she'll eke it out. But what we really need is to figure out a way for Trump and Taylor to bump into each other in the back end of the, suite area down there in New Orleans and have some incredible interaction that is just going to light social media on fire.
So she'll do the old, hey, I'm Taylor. Hello, I'm Donald.
He hands her like a signed MAGA hat or something. Oh, man, the possibilities are truly endless on that front. We may have to wait for the White House trip for that to happen. And that has, oh, my gosh, that has troll potential written all over it. So that's why we really need the Chiefs to win. We really, really need the Chiefs to win, if for nothing else, to see that trip to the White House, which has all the potential to be on fire. Because don't forget, they didn't get there in 2020 during that first Super Bowl because of COVID. So, oh, man, gosh. All right, well, we're fired up. Red Friday, still a lot to get to here on KCMO Talk Radio. Nick Haynes will be in studio for our Feature Friday segment on 95.7 FM. We got the jobs report that came down. 143,000 jobs added in January. Expectations were for 169,000 jobs. Unemployment rate fell to 4.0%, below the expectations of 4.1%. This is the lowest unemployment rate since May of 24, but the number came in below the expectations. Fed pause is here to stay. That's the takeaway on the jobs report. The Fed is not moving on interest rates right now, and frankly, nor should they. I said it under Biden, and for now, I will say it under Trump until proven otherwise. I know Trump wants to get interest rates down. I would not touch it. I know, he's got this idea of getting some more easy money pumped into the economy. You've got to prove that, first off, what you're doing with DOGE, what you're doing with shrinking the federal government is going to help cool off inflation before we have any thought of lowering interest rates. And I know that the Fed doesn't want to be behind the trend, but I'm sorry. I know Trump wants rates coming down, but I'm not doing it right now if I'm Jerome Powell, especially after the jobs report right now that just came out. And also of note, the December jobs report was revised higher, showing 307,000 jobs added for the month, up from 256,000 jobs. So December was the best jobs number since March of 2024. And I'm sure people are going to argue over whether or not that's a Trump bump or you're going to credit that to Joe Biden. I don't know how much you can credit Biden with after November, because at that point, the markets and the jobs are looking forward and businesses are looking forward. They're not like, oh, we got to hire someone because it's Biden's last month in office. Like, that's not how business operates. So kind of a ho-hum report right now. I think we're in this wait-and-see mode. You're not going to really know how Trump's economy is humming along probably till late spring, early summer. But what matters right now is that there's more optimism in the economy than there has been in a very long time. And optimism matters because that gets businesses to spend, that gets people to spend. So how they feel matters. And all the polling shows that people feel better right now about the economy and about the future of the economy under Donald Trump than they did under Joe Biden. 913-408-7957. We'll react more to the jobs report coming up at 8:30 with our buddy Mark Falter of the Retirement Income Hour. Coming up, no one knows well, I shouldn't say it that bluntly, but the vast majority of people do not know this band from Kansas that is trying to hit it big in Nashville. But they have a song about the Chiefs that is not like your corny Chiefs song. It's a legitimate song. It aired for the first time on Keatsman's show yesterday, and I want to play it for you. If you missed it, you don't want to miss it. And if you heard it, well, you will hear it again, and you will love it. It ties love of family, love of military, respect for the country, faith, all into one song, with the Chiefs being the backdrop of the song. We'll play it and tell you about these guys coming up on 95.7 FM KCMO.
from the nation's heartland. It's Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
There are always musicians who try to take advantage of cultural moments, try to take advantage, and I don't mean in a bad way, but just, capitalize off of hot things happening in culture and also in sports. How many different iterations of various Chiefs songs have we seen in recent years? And I don't just mean like Tech Nine. He's obviously got some bangers that are big here in Kansas City, Red Kingdom, things they play at games and things that you'll all be getting hyped up for this weekend. And they're great. I mean, trust me, my girls love them some Red Kingdom. It's easy to sing along. There's like 2 words to the whole song. It's catchy. It's fine, right? And there's a lot of people who do really poor jobs with songs trying to latch on the sports teams. Melissa Etheridge. Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
I thought that was my inner dialogue.
But yesterday, Keatsman played this fantastic song that is only on YouTube right now from a couple of guys who are trying to make it in Nashville, but they're from Kansas. And their band is called Matfield Green. Now, Matfield Green is a town of 49 people on the way down to Wichita. And they picked, and Kevin had on one of their members, Jackson Gulick is his name. He was on the show with Keatsman yesterday. You can find that on his podcast. And it was fantastic. The other guy in the band is Ian Mullins. They're 2 Kansas guys, and they wrote this song and recorded this song about a year ago. And the song is called Touchdown Kansas City. But it's not just like a Chiefs song. It's a song about love of country, love of military, faith, with the Chiefs as kind of the backdrop of the song. So it's a real song. And I heard it, and I'm like, all right, what's this going to sound like? I'm actually driving to PBS yesterday to record Week in Review with my buddy Nick Haynes, who's coming up at 9 o'clock. And I'm like, all right, what's this going to sound like? And I start listening to it, and I'm like, this is a song that could be on the radio. This is a legitimate song. And these guys only have like 200 subscribers on YouTube. Kevin helped blow them up yesterday. They got a bunch of views, a bunch of comments. We'll post the song on our Facebook page and our Twitter page after we play it here for you. But here's Matfield Green, 2 Kansas guys. They're trying to make it in Nashville, and this is their song, Touchdown Kansas City.
Threw his dog tags and a Chiefs flag in a backpack, kissed her goodbye. Was wheels up on a 12-month to the middle of some Middle East fight. Time drags on and that desert sun is the closest thing to hell he's ever known. But on game days that flag waves and it takes him right back home. To his dad painting on the arthritis on a smoking rack of ribs. Mama's got his 15 jersey on, even though it's way too big. His girl's red lipstick and boulevard, yellow ribbon in her hair. They might be a whole wide world apart, still praying the same prayer. Ain't just about the team that's on the 50. It's for a touchdown game. City. Got their 4x6 folded in his helmet from a tailgate last fall. Keeps him steady when that rifle gets heavy and his back's against the wall. Still some nights those long miles between them get hard to ignore. But at game time he can close his eyes and in his mind he's walking through that front door. To his dad painting on the arthritis on a smoking rack of ribs. Mama Mama's got his 15 jersey on, even though it's way too big. This girl's red lipstick and boulevard, yellow ribbon in her hair. They might be a whole wide world apart, still praying the same prayer. Ain't just about the team that's on the 50. It's for a touchdown, Kansas City. Like those first wheels on the runway, two boots stepping off an airplane, two arms wrapped around his family as they had dropped their homemade signs. Not long before those fighter jets come screaming over Arrowhead, anthem ringing through a sea of red. He'll be home just in time for his dad painting on the arthritis on a smoking rack of ribs. Mama's got his 15 jersey on, even though it's way too big. This girl's red lipstick and boulevard, yellow ribbon in her hair. They might be a whole wide world apart, still praying the same prayer. Ain't just about the team that's on the 50. It's for a touchdown, Kansas City. His dog tags and a Chiefs flag in a backpack. He's heading home.
That's Matfield Green, and these two guys are from Kansas. That's their song, Touchdown Kansas City. They are brand new to the Nashville scene. They're just trying to make it. And one of their band members was on with Keatsman yesterday talking about this song. And I admit, I am not sitting here as some music aficionado. I know what I like. I know what I think is good. And that just sounds like a song to me that you would be hearing on the radio, John. That's what it sounds like.
Well produced, absolutely.
Well produced. There's depth to the song. I mean, the Chiefs are really a metaphor, for lack of a better word, to the story they're telling about, serving in the military, faith, family, and the Chiefs are kind of the backdrop to the entire song. That's what I heard in listening to that. So I think it's great. Now, I know I'm biased. I will readily admit that. It may be a song that just takes off in Kansas City, but it's damn good. And Mark, will you post that on our Facebook and Twitter pages, X page? We'll get it up there. These guys, Matfield Green Music is where they're at on YouTube, and we'll share the song as well. Coming up on KCMO, Mark Falter on the new jobs report next.
Stream Mundo in the morning on the KCMO Talk Radio app.
Jobs report dropped an hour ago. Economy adding 143,000 jobs in January. Expectations were for 169,000 jobs. Unemployment rate fell to 4.0%, below the expectations of 4.1%. Mark Falter, Retirement Income Hour, Saturday and Sunday mornings at 9 on KCMO Talk Radio is here. Mid-American Wealth Advisory Group in Kansas City. All right, Mark, jobs report, what's the takeaway here?
Hey, we've got a kind of a little bit of a slowing economy and less jobs. There's a couple of things I think you can blame it on. It's just, believe it or not, this weather has had a big impact, and that has actually had some impact to it. And I think overall the labor market is still relatively stable, but it's just a lot of economic uncertainties too going on right now with the political change and a lot of tariffs going on, and that's going to make things a little rocky for a while.
Yeah, some of that it seems like is happening. Now, when you look back on the 2024 jobs numbers revised, I think they were revised down by overall 600,000. So, it was not the year in the jobs market that we thought it was when you got the initial number. Almost every month saw the number get revised down. So what are we really looking at going forward here when it comes to the jobs market and how you think the economy overall is going to react to that?
I think the economy overall is good. I mean, I think we're going to see some tumultuous times because we're going to see inflation. It's a little higher than what they want it right now, and I think it potentially could go higher with the tariffs. It's going to ultimately raise some prices on things. I think the job market's going through a cycle. If you remember here, we were talking about a year ago, man, as an employer, we couldn't hardly find people. And it was just the opposite direction. So it's kind of swinging back this way. It's like a pendulum, and it's going to be easier to find people to work for jobs now.
Yeah, I mean, how much of this too, though? I mean, I get it. The tariffs, we saw the markets like go in the toilet earlier in the week, but then Trump pauses the tariffs for Mexico, then he pauses them for Canada, and then the markets kind of bounce back. And I don't know about you, Mark, but when I see the markets go down 400 points, it sounds scary, but it's not even 1%. I mean, I don't know. Are the markets really buying any of this stuff, or is it all just kind of headline fear-mongering nonsense?
I think overall, over the next few months, I don't think you're going to see a major correction in the market, but I think the market could have a correction. I think in the next 18 months. I mean, it's been running now for 18 months, 20 months now. So I think the market could. I don't think you'll see it in the next 2 to 3 months. But it's you know what? When it drops 400 points, that's not that big of a drop. It's actually a good day to invest more. It's like I tell people week in and week out, and that is if you're younger, really don't even watch that stuff. Just buy a good S&P 500 fund and call it good.
Call it good. So what about the Fed? How do you think Jerome Powell and the Fed react to this jobs report?
I think he's going to hold it stable. I think in their, what do they got, a meeting in March? I think they're going to hold it stable, and they're not going to move much at all due to the fact that they don't want to obviously take it up, and they don't want to go down just to come back up again. So I think they're probably you're not going to see any change at all.
It feels, even though I know Trump's already kind of calling for lower rates, listen, I said under Biden, they shouldn't lower the rates until we see inflation really get kicked in the butt. I wouldn't lower the rates right now either. What about you?
No, I wouldn't either. No, I think, and I've been saying this, I think rates are kind of good where they're at.
Yeah.
I wouldn't fool them anymore. This is really where it should have been for a long time. We just got used to zero for how many years did that last? 20 years,
Yeah.
And we just got so used to that. But now if you go borrow for a house, you're going to get a house at 5, 6, 7%, which is where it really should be. And, at least it's not up at 12 and 18 like in Jimmy's time frame.
Mm-hmm. Mark Falter's here, Retirement Income Hour, Saturday and Sunday mornings at 9. So some other interesting notes here. A lot of the big tech stocks get a lot of focus. Apple stock is lagging the S&P 500. What do you attribute that to for a stock that, many mom and pop Americans just own and like to follow and like to buy?
Well, I'll tell you what, I own it. And we own it in some of our clients' accounts, too. I think it's a good time to be buying Apple. Phone sales are down. The concerns over the iPhone sales are down. And I think just some profit-taking going on. Artificial intelligence is putting some pressure on them also. And between all that, it's just causing the stock to take a little bit of a correction. But I think overall, oh man, I'll tell you what, you look at Apple for the last 5 years, been great.
Well, some people will say, and I think Mark Zuckerberg said this in an interview, he goes, Apple really hasn't done anything since the iPhone. Are they still living off of that thing? Do they need to have, I mean, listen, it's a massive invention, but is there time for Apple to figure out something new here? Or is that just Zuckerberg taking a shot at one of his competitors?
Now, I'll tell you what. Well, I would disagree with Mark, and I'll tell you why. I got to look his name up. CEO of Nike got the job. Talked to the CEO of Apple, and then basically what he told him is one of the things that Nike has to do is quit making so much crap. Those were his exact words. And because Apple stays focused on a handful of items, and they do real good at it. But the problem is there's not that many changes from iPhone to iPhone. I've always said they should come out with an ad that says nothing has changed but the price.
Yeah.
And but yeah, there's just not that many changes.
Okay. All right. That's a fair analysis of what Apple is. Do what you do and do it well is your point, right?
That's right. Do what you do and do it well.
Now, let me ask you this. I saw this earlier in the week that the Magnificent Seven stocks now make up for something like 73% of the S&P 500. It hasn't been that high since like the Great Depression. The .com was just under that number. Do you have, or right before the Great Depression, do you have concerns with the percentage of the market that is tied up in 7 companies?
Yeah, it is somewhat of a concern because it's always a concern when you get that isolated in any one thing. You know, the old saying goes, don't put all your eggs in one basket or even 7 baskets.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you want it by multiple areas. That makes for some volatility. So here's the way you could look at it. Is that mean it's volatilities? It doesn't mean the thing's going to crash and go away. It means it's going to be more volatile now that it's wrapped up in 7. You may or may not remember, what the heck was the name of that fund? Janus had a fund called the Janus 20 Fund. That thing would make 72% one year and then negative 50 the next year and then 84 the next, because it was meant to do that. So whenever you isolate it down into a handful, that's what happens. Now, you can look at that one of two ways. If you're a 73-year-old, that may not be the place you want to be unless you like volatility. But if you're younger, man, that's giving some good buying opportunities when it's volatile like that because it's not going anywhere, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, it's definitely not going anywhere. You're right about that.
But
go ahead.
It's definitely more volatile now, but it's got more opportunities for growth too.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Now, last week, the big firm that got a lot of attention that nobody heard of 2 weeks ago was this company, DeepSeek, Chinese firm. And you saw a lot of downward trends for tech stocks because DeepSeek apparently was able to develop and use AI at a much cheaper cost than here in the U.S. First off, my question right away, Mark, was why should we believe a Chinese-based tech firm on anything, and why are the markets reacting to something that China is claiming? And then secondarily, how big of a deal is this in the end anyway, or is this just creating more global competition? What was your takeaway from that whole fiasco?
I think it's creating more competition, but I think it's for real, man. DeepSeek developed its R1 model for under $6 million. Now it sounds like a lot.
But that's what they claim. But that's what they claim, right? Do we have any evidence of that?
Well, you know, I can't disagree.
I don't believe the Chinese Communist Party. I just don't believe anything coming out of China right now.
No. And that's a good story, but it's attracting a lot of attention. And I think they probably did do it a lot less expensive. But yeah, I agree with you. You can't trust a darn word they say. Yeah. But it works.
Yeah. Okay. But you do believe was that also a situation where the markets maybe just created a buying opportunity, or do you think there could be trouble in paradise for these big AI companies?
I don't think there's going to be trouble in paradise for the big AI companies. I don't think it's going to take over. I think you're probably going to find out the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
And companies like NVIDIA are still going to do quite well. And AI is just really, it's a great time to be investing in it.
All right. Well, Mark, you have no shortage of topics, my man, for the show this weekend, 9 o'clock tomorrow and Sunday morning, Mid-American Wealth Advisory Group. We always appreciate it, my friend.
Hey, appreciate it, man. Thanks.
You as well. Mark Falter, great job on KCMO 95.7 FM. Streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app, my buddy Nick Haynes. We're going to go through everything happening in Kansas City with him just after 9 o'clock. Buy, sell, hold. 3 questions rolling until 9 o'clock is next on KCMO. Oh, yeah. Are you thinking about a new tub or shower? Well, if so, there's only one name to know in Kansas City, the Plumbing Pro. And for over 40 years, the Plumbing Pro has been the new bath pro. You may have seen all the national personalities promoting tub and shower replacements on TV. But especially sitting here on a Friday morning, you got the Plumbing Pro, and they're local right here in KC. Steve and his team do an outstanding job. And, he's been serving Kansas City now for going on over 45 years. 1978 was the first bid Steve gave that kicked off the Plumbing Pro. And right now they're offering Pete's Deal. You can get $2,000 off in 12 months, same as cash with approved credit with Pete's Deal at the Plumbing Pro. Save money and time, easy to work with, low stress, free consultation with local experts you can rely on and trust. They'll be in and out in as little as 1 to 3 days. And if you have access issues, no worries. Zero entry showers, grab bars, shower seating for safety and convenience. Pete's Deal, $2,000 off and 12 months, same as cash. Theplumbingpro.com, theplumbingpro.com, or call 816-763-8200 for The Plumbing Pro.
Hey, it's Dan Bongino. You're listening to Pete Mundo on KCMO Talk Radio, now on FM at 95.7.
Buddy Nick Haynes, Kansas City PBS. We'll talk everything Kansas City for our Feature Friday coming up in 15 minutes on KCMO Talk Radio. It is that time of the morning.
It's time to buy, sell,
How about it in 12 and a half, 15?
and hold.
All right, John Anthony, give me something good, my man. What is on the rundown today?
Buy, sell, or hold Quentin Lucas's State of the City, including Trump.
I was so disappointed by this yesterday. I'm selling it. You know, the mayor was on the show when we were live out at Chicken and Pickle with Fox and Friends because he did a hit with Fox and Friends yesterday to wrap up their show. So he did his hit with us in person. And he got pulled away by the Fox News producers, which is fine. I don't mind getting big time by the Fox News producers. It's all good. But I got into it at the end of the conversation. I said, hey, your party, Democratic Party right now, has an unfavorability number of minus 26. New Quinnipiac poll came out over the weekend. The unfavorability rating for the Democratic Party is 57%. The favorability number is 31. I don't think leaning into everything Trump does is the worst, i.e., like it was in 2017, is going to work. Trump is more popular right now than he ever was during his first term. You got to be careful not to go back to the same playbook. And Lucas, he acknowledged that to his credit, and I think deep down he knows that. So I don't know if I'm going to blame his speechwriter for this, but ultimately it falls on him. You can't open the State of the City yesterday taking shots at Trump without saying his name. This is a bad idea right now.
The month of January was a very long year. In the course of the last few weeks, over $30 million of grant awards to the city were put in jeopardy. 30,000 federal workers and contractors in Kansas City and our surrounding areas were made to feel anxious about their career futures. And too many of our neighbors were made to feel fearful about their ability to remain in our city and to thrive, fearful that programs to bring more Kansas Cityans to an inclusive table of shared opportunity, like where I just was before with Variety KC, could be gutted by broad actions that marginalize millions from the right to a fair shot.
Oh, break out the violin for crying out loud. My goodness. Trump's popularity right now is higher than it's been. The policies on deportations are popular right now. The focus is on people who have committed crimes. But yes, if there are people here illegally, they're going to have a problem. Okay? They're going to have a problem. He ran on this, and it won over the American people. I don't think taking pot shots at Trump's immigration policy and cleaning up a federal bureaucracy at a time when Americans have been just trying to scrape by the last 4 years while those in government live high on the hog is something that really is smart. It's just bad politics. Unless the goal is just to basically appeal to the lowest common denominator on one side of the political aisle. But that's not the job of a mayor. It's not. It's largely an apolitical job. Pick up the trash, clean up the snow, and, try to keep crime somewhat under control. That's it. That's the role. So I thought it was a major misstep yesterday when he opens up the State of the City doing the whole doom and gloom because of Trump stuff. Even in a blue city, I don't understand the motive behind that. John, what's next?
Buy, sell, or hold U.S. aid cutting thousands of jobs.
How quickly can I buy this one? And it's not because I want to see people lose their jobs, but U.S. aid is expected to reduce to about 290 workers from the more than 5,000 foreign service officers, civil servants, and personal service contractors that it currently employs, according to two sources familiar with the plans. Now, this probably ends up in court like all the other stuff. I don't know how this actually ends up playing out. But looking under the hood of these bureaucracies and doing full-blown audits and saying we're $36 trillion in debt, we're running a $1.8 trillion deficit, this is also something that Trump ran on. People are acting like, Oh, do you regret your vote yet? No. In fact, I'm feeling better about it than ever, to be totally honest with
Better
you.
by the hour.
Yeah, exactly. No, no, I'm not feeling that way. Nothing he's done has caught anybody off guard if you actually followed the campaign.
They've started the disingenuous videos now about what USAID does.
Yep.
For those of us who are in favor of cutting it, about feeding people around the world. That was the original intent back in the 60s with Kennedy.
Yeah.
But not comic books for trans in Peru.
Yeah, or 20
stage productions in Ireland. What else?
I think 20
DEI
million
in Serbia.
For Sesame Street in Iraq. I think I saw that.
Uh-huh.
So, these are things.
So, yeah, we want to feed the kids.
Yeah, feed
We're
the kids.
We're not doing stage productions and comic books.
Nope, we're not doing any of that. Feed the kids, sure, I get it. There are good things to be done around the world that we can certainly help with. But if you say to yourself, oh, boy, this is a threat to democracy, to see how our tax dollars are being spent, no. That actually is democracy.
In action.
In action. Thank you very much. May I have another? What's next?
Buy, sell, or hold. Here we are. The big one. Mark's Super Bowl parlay.
Oh, come
Gotta
on.
have D-Hop in there, right?
Come on. You got to have a little D-Hop in there for me, Mark. Let's go.
I'm not going to read this one out loud for you guys, but I do have a 50-cent bet to win $315. I'm not going to read that one off. It's 18 things that have to hit, but I will tell you guys about it if it does hit on Monday.
And you got to prove it to me with a screenshot.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'll let you know.
Give me your Chiefs parlay, brother.
All right, here we go. $10 to win $125. I got the Chiefs winning by 3 points or more.
Mm-hmm.
Harrison Butker needs to make at least one field goal in the game. I think he's going to make 2, but he needs to make at least 1.
Okay.
Kareem Hunt needs 35 yards rushing or more. DeAndre Hopkins needs at least 2 receptions. And the final one, Patrick Mahomes, 225 passing or more.
Wow, that's it, huh?
That's it. Short and sweet today.
I'm not going to lie. I really like it. D-Hop worries me.
He's got to get the 2 catches this week.
I know.
It was plus money on that.
I know. I think they'll try to get him the ball. I could see that because he's had a quiet postseason, right?
Mm-hmm. Reed likes to get to those guys in the Super Bowl, too.
I know. You're right. I'm buying it. Let's go.
Let's go.
Woo! Oh, my goodness. I'm buying it, Mark. And put that parlay up on social media, okay?
I will.
10 to win 125. Chiefs -3. Butker, I got my Butker jersey on.
Mm-hmm.
Got a field goal there. Kareem 35. D-Hop 2 receptions. Mahomes 2.25. I'm in, baby.
Let's go.
I'm
My final
in.
score, 27-24.
There you go. I love it. I love it. Kevin Kiesman uncanceled at 10 o'clock. Our buddy Nick Canes on everything Kansas City next. It is 9:04 on KCMO Talk Radio. We're all getting ready for the Super Bowl, so I said our feature Friday guest has to be a guy who is totally not in tune with NFL football, and that is Nick Haynes of Kansas City PBS. Good morning, Nick.
Well, I see you've got a camera right in front of me, too. And I wanted to create the illusion, though, for your radio audience that I was dressed from tip to toe in Chiefs red. And actually, we were doing a challenge with the public television station in Philadelphia, and they asked me to do it. And they said, hey, Nick, can you bring in your Chiefs shirt and cap? And I said, what Chiefs shirt and cap? So I'm dressed in blue today, and that is because I want to be passionately dispassionate. And I'm doing that today.
Yeah, well, listen, I am super excited to have you here. We've got a lot going on in Kansas City, and glad you're a part of it on KCMO Talk Radio. With that being said, I want to just start off, and listen, we'll talk about what this game means.
Yes.
And I do want to get a prediction from you, even though you maybe not know what you're talking about. What does this game mean for the city? You've been here for, 35 years now?
Yes,
35
absolutely.
years.
Yeah.
So from what you see from just a Kansas City camaraderie, business perspective, economic perspective, how big is this moment right now for this town and what we've been living through the last few years?
Well, I think it's really important that, in a community that does not have mountains and oceans, and what have we got to offer the rest of the nation? And the Chiefs have been this gift that keeps on giving. And I can't remember a time when we've been more in the national news because of the Chiefs and the Taylor Swift connection to all of this. And so that has to boost our tourism and interest in this community. And I think I might have shared with you, I was back at a funeral earlier this year in the UK, and everyone was talking about the Chiefs. They seem to know everything about it. That was a very new phenomenon. Most people have no clue what American football is. They think it's a silly game. Now, all of a sudden, it became a big deal. And so all of those cultural connections have made it, when they say, Kansas City is a world team, I've experienced that myself.
And when you go through that and you see that, does it make you say, gosh, our town here that is, give or take 30th size market in the country is now a market and a city that people around the world are recognizing, wearing jerseys from, and can point out on the map, which may have not been the case 10 years ago.
Oh, my goodness, absolutely so. We were flyover country. It does give us more of a connection to the rest of the world, gravitas. We had Mayor giving his State of the City address this week, and I was thinking about that, and he's talking about this as a city on the rise. We are getting a huge amount of national attention, and he's on the news, the national news constantly. I can't recall a mayor having that much media exposure than our current one. He can say when he was giving that State of the City address, he's the mayor that pushed the Chiefs into the Super Bowl 5 times during his tenure. That's a big deal. And it's all the things around it that have helped us elevate that too. You think about the World Cup coming here. The fact that we have that stadium and all of the gravitas around that allows us to even host a World Cup next year.
Has Lucas's luck of being here during the Super Bowl run benefited him in a way that, let's be honest, he has no control. He just kind of fell into this, right? I mean, he got lucky, and there's nothing wrong with getting lucky, but he got lucky to be the mayor at this time in Kansas City history. Is that masking some of the problems the city has been facing?
Well, I would say this. You think about when he came in, we then had COVID. And you can say, oh, my God, that could have been the unluckiest time for a mayor to ever take office. And he steered the ship through that and managed to come out the other side, nobody bothered to challenge him of any great extent other than Clay Chastain, and wins handsomely. But yes, I mean, it does help. These are the things that people care about. This sense of that we're doing great things, and we are. And other than the Olympics, we seem to be bringing every single thing to town. Even, I know soccer isn't your big deal, but when the KC Current Stadium opened, we have national news networks bringing their entire morning show to Kansas City because of of that event. That's sort of quite extraordinary.
That's true. I will give you that. But I look at it too, and I say, how much of that is Kathy Nelson with the Kansas City Sports Commission? Right? Isn't that a large part of her job?
Of course, it's a team of people.
Yes.
Of course, it's a team of people. And you can say the KC Current, Patrick Mahomes and his wife were investors in that. Had the Chiefs been terrible, well, perhaps Patrick Mahomes is a real reason why the Chiefs have been terrible. have been great. So that's why they can now do all of those other things in the community that have elevated those opportunities, including potentially now a WNBA franchise. We saw that Caitlin Clark, the WNBA phenom, was here, and so all of that is also taking place because of them.
So the State of the City yesterday for Quentin Lucas, how much of this did you watch?
I actually always watch after the fact. It is interesting. He did it at City Hall.
Yes.
And on my show this week, you said, well, because he's heading out of town and how much interest is there now in a State of the City address. It is interesting because they've made an effort from Slide James on to take that to different parts of the community. It may be the 18th and Vine Jazz District, or it's to a school. It's been taken to different places in the community, and now it's like, why bother? I'll just do it in my regular position at City Hall in Kansas City. How much people were paying attention, I don't quite frankly know. It's interesting, even the government channel, they had a government channel called Channel 2. You can't even get all those things the same way as you used to.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of been buried. They're not spending the resources on doing that the same way as they did before. So I'm not sure how many people listened, but I was certainly interested in some of the things he talked about. And, I think that crime is an Achilles heel for Mayor Lucas, the weakness. I mean, in a week where we had a triple homicide in Kansas City of 3 women, pushing us now to,
18, 19?
18, I think we have. Yeah, 18. I just looked at the official figures from the police department this morning. 18. Think about last year, that was just 6 at this time last year. So it's tripled the number of homicides. We're already surpassed where we were in 2023, which was a record breaking year for homicides in Kansas City. He's been given a lot of leeway because of all the other things, as you point out, that have been happening in the city. All of these bigger, splashier things from, again, the World Cup, opening of a KC Stadium. We're going to have a brand new extension of the streetcar line coming imminently in this brand spanking new year called 2025 as well.
What do you think he ends up doing next? I mean, he's not going to D.C. We all knew it was the worst kept secret. He wanted to go to D.C. and work for the Harris team if they won.
Oh, yeah. Well, he was traveling around the country. It was one of his main surrogates. I mean, it was seemed to be every weekend. He was in some other state campaigning for her. And yes, that has to be a disappointment that he didn't find a job as a result of that. And he's been chilled out, of course, of a Washington position as a result of that. Well, let's think about all the other things he could do. He was a law professor and still does a class at the University of Kansas. Could he go back to being a law professor? It seems like too low profile a job to do that.
You got to feed and I mean this with all due respect to him, but politicians have egos. They like to be in the spotlight. He's not going to be on the news as the law professor from KU.
Absolutely. There is a recall effort underway of Jackson County Executive Frank White that could cause a crisis if that were to happen. Who's going to fill in? Our good friend Eric Wesson of Next Page KC seems to be of the belief that Quentin Lucas could be in that slot. I don't think that's a major boost for him either. I don't think that's an elevation of position being the Jackson County executive.
No.
But anyway, that is something that's been stated. Congressman Cleaver doesn't seem to be going anywhere. That would be a perfect slot for him. But he seems to be showing no signs of wanting to retire. So he's stuck there. And statewide office is going to be very difficult for a Democrat from Kansas City who's African American. So I think you're going to close that. I have the view that the Mid-America Regional Council could be a landing space for him. The Mid-America Regional Council is this sort of coordinating force in Kansas City that coordinates all the big issues from the environment to infrastructure to housing and works with all of the municipalities around our metropolitan area. It pays a huge amount of money. David Warm is its leader. He's been there forever. He's got to be looking at retirement. That seems to be a potential place that Quentin Lucas could land and be seen as a sort of regional leader.
So you can make a lot of money doing that at Mark?
Oh, my goodness, yes.
Really?
Yes, very handsome payments there.
All right. So you're saying I should brush off the old resume and take a look at Mark is what you're telling me to do.
What you need to be doing is in every one of your tweets to be saying, good morning, Kansas City and its surrounds.
Well,
just like Mayor Lucas does. That will give you that regional profile.
I will say this much. A lot of people got upset. He was down there in Chicken and Pickle in Overland Park yesterday where we were broadcasting from, where Fox and Friends was. He did a little hit on Fox and Friends at the very end of the show. And some people got on him on our Facebook page. And I'll say this, listen, I'm more than critical of him and his policies when appropriate. But because the event was in Overland Park, no one wants to hear in that situation from Kurt Skoog, the mayor of Overland Park. And I say that with all due respect. He is the mayor of the hub city where the team is located. I don't have any issue with him going to Overland Park to do that interview.
No, absolutely not. But there used to be that concern. I remember when Emmanuel Cleaver was mayor, and there may be some racial incident or something in Johnson County or something that would come up. And then he would start speaking out about it and how the howls of protest, how dare one make those types of statements in another person's state, that he was the mayor of Kansas City, stick to your lane. So we've always had those little jurisdictional differences. I'm going to tell you another one that actually is happening right now. There's a congressional housing summit coming to Kansas City. And so I've been meeting with Congressman Mark Alford, the Republican from Missouri in the 4th District. It was supposed to have a California congressman who is the co-chair of the Real Estate Caucus and Emmanuel Cleaver. Well, Emmanuel Cleaver was feeling pressure to back out because they don't want to be seen to be cooperating with Republicans. We were going to do it at the World War I Museum. And so all of a sudden, I've found out Emmanuel Cleaver's backed out. We can't do it at the World War I Museum because it is actually an ethics violation, apparently, for a congressman to go into somebody else's district to hold like a congressional
So Cleaver
summit.
would have had to have been the host.
He would have to have been part of it. And the fact that he's not part of it then is a violation that Mark Alford, who's in the 4th District, could go to the World War I Museum and do this broadcast with us and the California congressman. It's kind of an amazing deal, and I was completely unaware of it, and I couldn't quite understand the whole thing. But jurisdictional differences and these boundary differences still have a major effect.
Was it Ro Khanna in California?
It was not.
Okay.
him.
I know him and Alford are close.
Okay.
All right. Interesting. Well, that's disappointing from Cleaver, though. That's just me talking now, of course, not Nick. But that's.
I think the pressure was on, and it was Maxine Waters, and she is the chair of the committee that he has major, that he is under, and so he was feeling a certain unique pressure.
He was. All right. Well, maybe Maxine Waters needs to chill out a little bit there, huh? Wasn't she the one that was chanting with Chuck Schumer at that rally the other day? Did you see? We were playing that video the other day. It was Schumer and Maxine Waters trying to start some goofy chant the other afternoon at a podium somewhere. All right, Nick Haynes is here, Kansas City PBS. Quick break, come back. We got a lot more to get into with him as we roll till 10 o'clock on KCMO.
Call Mundo 913-408-7957. Now on 95.7 FM.
Our good friend Nick Haynes, Kansas City PBS, is here for our feature Friday on KCMO. You know, Nick, you obviously have moderated, is it fair to say, hundreds of things during your career around Kansas City?
Absolutely.
And I've been a part of your panels. I mean, the one that really sticks out to me and is burnt into my memory is the one on reparations we did about 2 summers ago.
Yeah.
Where was that? You remember where that was?
The reparations, wasn't that at the University Academy?
Yes.
It was, isn't it? In
Good
Kansas City,
memory.
Missouri. Yes,
Good memory.
Charter school.
Yes.
Which, by the way, because, sentence about it, we wanted to do that at the Center High School.
Okay.
And we were told, Paseo High School, should I say, which we've done before, great theater, wonderful location. They all said yes. And then when they knew what the topic was, they backed out.
Oh.
And so, choosing venues, being in certain places can often be challenging, and certain organizations don't want to be involved in something that might be controversial.
And one of the things I do appreciate about you and respect about you is that you really try to give everybody a fair shot, whether it's on the show we can review, whether it is, in a situation like that where I'm the guy who's there against reparations and I've got 75% of the audience against me. You're fair about this, and I respect that. But how hard is it for you to moderate some of these things? Because it's not as easy as you make it look.
That is very, very nice of you. I really work hard at it. I do host lots and lots of events, even just community things that are much smaller, because that actually helps me do a better job with the big things. And so, but certainly coming from a different country originally, in the United Kingdom, coming here, even though I've been here over 30 years, gave me a certain sense of outsider status, didn't have the same norms that I had to follow as others. And I just have a inbuilt feeling of fairness, and that is ideological fairness, geographic fairness. Diversity is a wide range of things. And so that is my, I just feel a passion for making sure that that everyone gets that shot, and that it is not a one-sided conversation among the people we have. If I am in a situation, you sometimes put in positions where everyone is of a certain political stripe, then you become the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just reference to you a little bit. I was asked by Emmanuel Cleaver during the first Trump administration to host a forum on immigration. And it was absolutely packed to the gills, and it was very, very disruptive. And because the panel was all folks who believed that we needed to be hands-off when it came to doing anything in terms of controlling immigration, I then, my Nick Haynes, kicks in, which is I then have to be the devil's advocate on this and push them to talk about the consequences of those actions. And then you become the bad guy.
Yeah.
And then you got the public. And then shame on you, Nick Haynes. As an immigrant, you should be, they're like chanting at me. But I
Welcome
do,
to my world.
I do feel then when you're in that situation, then you have to present that, the onus is far more on you. To do that. But my favorite thing to do is just to moderate conversations where you have a group of people. That was certainly true of the stadium tax debate, where we had a great mix of folks on all sides of the stadium tax, which we did at the Plaza Library. A very contentious debate and very raucous. But people had their shot, everybody had their chance, and then people get to make up their own minds without me putting my thumb on the scale.
Well, it's easier for you, and you, if you're doing your job well, which you do, you want to have a balanced panel, because then you don't have to be the devil's advocate or the bad guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you should want if you're doing it well, and you do it well. So,
not every organization does it that way, though.
Well, you're right.
We're in a community where people don't like that, in a sense of organizations like to be in their own bubbles.
Yes.
And you hear about Kansas City niceness or whatever, and there is that sense that there are very few places you can go today in Kansas City and have those, and where you hear people of different points of view in a same panel. It doesn't happen very often.
That's true. You're one of the few places where you can actually get that. And how tough is that? Let's be honest. Under the PBS umbrella, that can't be easy sometimes to literally try to be down the middle.
It's all about relationships. And I'll give you one example of that. Like everyone wants to do, say, a governor's debate or something of that nature, and how you can get these people. And I always say it's all about the relationships. What have you done to build that rapport in advance of that? And so an example of that was over a year before the governor's debate, they had the Holocaust Museum, the Holocaust exhibit at the Union Station. I was there at the VIP event, my wife and I, and we went through it with Laura Kelly, the governor of Kansas, and said, hey, we're going to do this debate, whatever, remember me from blank. And she says, Nick, whatever you need. And so I sort of created that environment with her over a year in advance. Then my daughter's at KU. She's in a sorority. We sit down at a breakfast, and who should be sitting next to me but Derek Schmidt? His daughter is in the same sorority class.
Is that
so
right?
she was running, yeah. So we just hit it off. And
was that the first time you had met him?
Yes.
Okay.
I knew obviously all about him. I'd met his wife many times because his wife was in public television, but we just made that connection again. I'm now keeping the warm vibes going. The other thing I have to understand, I'm not an ideological person. At my heart, I am a personality-driven person. I thrive on the energy around me. So that would be the situation. We did a big conversation on censorship with Jay Ashcroft. Actually, at the World War I Museum early last year, and we just hit it off too. And I thought, wow, if he gets to be the nominee for the Republican governor, I know we can land that debate and we're going to go after it. However, he loses, and I had no connection with my Keo, and I thought I wasn't going to mess. I wasn't going to try to get it because it's all, again, you have to have that relationship with these people first. That's where it starts.
Trust.
A trust that you're going to set them up for success.
Yeah, that's true. All right, Nick, in the final minute, we had a great conversation this week on your show. It airs tonight at 7 o'clock. I apologize for any email complaints that you will get ahead of time.
Okay.
All right. I hope you don't get too many, though. That's why you bring me back once in a while.
If we are not getting people upset about something, we're not doing our job, and we should shut down immediately.
I agree.
All right?
I like that approach.
And it is yes, we do get heat. But again, it goes back to people do not like to be in the position where they hear different rival points of view, even when it's done in a respectful fashion. That's where we've become. And I'd like to believe there's still room, even on public television, to make that happen.
Give me a score for Sunday. Come on, give me something good. Do it like a soccer game. I don't care.
All righty. I will do then Chiefs 35, the Eagles 32. How about that?
32. What are we talking? A bunch of safeties here? How's that good? 32?
Missed 2-point conversion.
There you go. Nice job, Mark. Bailing out our buddy Nick Haynes. I love it. Hey, Nick, thank you for coming in, my friend.
Well, I'm glad to be with you.
Nick Haynes, Kansas City PBS tonight, 7 o'clock. We'll be on there. Caller of the day is next.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
And we'll talk to Kevin in about 15 minutes to wrap up the show on KCMO. We have some new breaking information on the Kansas City sports reporter who died while on assignment in New Orleans, Aden Manzano. This just breaking in the last couple of minutes. A 48-year-old woman has been arrested in connection with the death of Aden Manzano. Man. Danette Colbert of Slidell, Louisiana, was arrested by police after she allegedly was caught using Manzano's credit card at several stores in the New Orleans area. Investigators said they reviewed security footage showing Colbert with Manzano on the morning of Wednesday, February 5th. Investigators also said that Colbert was seen on video leaving Manzano's hotel room later that morning. Manzano was found unresponsive in that hotel room later in the day. As of this morning, Colbert has only been booked for property crimes, according to police, which include fraud and theft-related offenses. But this is somebody who has, as is too often the case, an arrest record that includes prior arrests related to being accused of drugging men, stealing cash, fraudulent use of credit and debit cards, and other financial-related crimes. So this is who this person is. And the most tragic part of this whole thing is Aden Manzano, 27 years old, Telemundo KC, lost his wife about 10 months ago to a car accident. They have a 1-year-old child who is now an orphan. And while we don't know what exactly happened, this guy was on assignment in New Orleans. There are a lot of very bad and very sketchy people when you go to any of these events, whether it's a Super Bowl. I've only been around one Super Bowl, and it was the one that was in New York with the Seahawks and the Broncos, I think it was. And, I mean, that was chaotic, but it was New York, so you didn't really feel it, to be honest. Unless you were, like, part of the action, you didn't feel like you were part of a town with a Super Bowl because it's New York and there's just so much going on. And then outside of that, it's mostly been big political conventions where, listen, you get a lot of riffraff and a lot of scumbags looking to take advantage of people and looking to commit crimes. Do I think whatever may have allegedly happened in this hotel room was part of a plan? No. But as we well know, with the border, with fentanyl being in so many drugs, you don't know how much fentanyl is some of these drugs, and I'm not saying that's it, but we all know the issue that we have with fentanyl laced in all of the drugs that are out on the streets. Is it possible that somebody tries to drug somebody and steal from them, and God forbid there are things in those drugs that the person who is drugging someone else doesn't realize are in those drugs? Absolutely. But this is just an awful, awful tragedy for this young man. And it is a good reminder for, I mean, heck, you got the kid that was at the bachelor party, right, in Nashville from, was that in the fall? Gosh, it was late summer, early fall, something like that, when that whole thing went down. And he just ends up wandering off, and it turns out he ends up in the river. He was just way too drunk. But you've got to be careful. You go to these places, and you got to have somebody looking out for you. Even if you're on the job, you got to have somebody looking out for you. You end up at a bar, it's 1, 2 in the morning, you're by yourself. And even if you're a guy, you know, run to the bathroom, beer's on the table, who knows what gets put in there. I'm just saying, you got to be careful with this stuff. Oh, my goodness. On a lighter note, our caller of the day, I'm glad we picked this person as our caller of the day because we needed somebody to lighten the mood in the wake of this breaking news that just came down in the last couple of minutes. But we were talking very early this morning about how the public perception of men competing in women's sports has only come further in our direction. And you don't have to take my word for it or my opinion for it. You can literally take the data from CNN on this.
I think these numbers are really illuminating on this topic because I just think there's such a clear trend among the American public. So transgender female athletes in women's sports, only 18% of the country says that they should be, in fact, allowed to participate in women's sports. Compare this to the opposition. I mean, my goodness gracious, 79%. You rarely get 79% of the country to agree on anything, but they do in fact agree on the idea of opposing transgender female athletes in women's sports. But it's not just the here and now, Laura. It's not just the here and now. What we're actually seeing is a trend on this particular issue, and it's going in the direction of opposition. So take a look here. Okay, transgendered female athletes, and amongst those Americans who oppose them in women's sports. Back in 2021, it was 62%. A majority, but, not anywhere close to a ginormous majority, right? A clear majority, but not a ginormous majority. But then again, you look here in 2025, you see it at 79%. So it's not just that the majority of Americans are opposed to transgender female athletes in women's sports. It's that the opposition has become considerably larger in just the last 4 years.
It's an 80-20 issue at this point. It's not even close. Yet if you watch legacy media, you would think maybe 60-50, possibly 60-40. It's an 80-20 issue. There are not many things in America that are 80-20 issues anymore, and dudes not competing against chicks is one of them. And don't let anybody try to convince you otherwise. Whether you're at the water cooler, at the office, or you're anywhere else in your life, do not let anybody else try to shame you or convince you otherwise that you are not on the right side, first off, of history, but also on the right side of the American public. And here is our caller of the day.
It's the Mundo in the Morning Caller of the Day on KCMO Talk Radio, now on FM at 95.7.
Steven's in Kansas City. What's up, big dog? Good morning. Go ahead. Happy Friday.
P, you did a magnificent job yesterday. They're going to have some lame pep rally with Al Roker today, but you guys put him to shame. That was magnificent.
Oh,
yesterday.
Is that right? Is Al Roker doing a little thing? What, is he handed out Manjaro or something? What's he doing?
I don't know. They're going to have some liberal pep rally. And yesterday, I mean, that was just the best of Kansas City. That was just, we should have it every year. We should just do that again. What you guys did yesterday, it was fantastic. I wish I knew about it in advance. I would have driven over.
I would have loved to have met you, Steve. That would have been a hoot. That would have been a hoot,
you
man.
Bet.
Go ahead. What's on your mind?
The cowards of all cowards yesterday, the NCAA flipped. I mean, the culture is changing, and that was a great clip there. I think it was Scott Jennings that said that is Trump 2.0. We're taking all the 79 80-20 issues and flipping them, and Mayor Q, the mayor has no choice but defend the undefendable, because he probably wants to succeed Frank White, or get another job. So if it's political jujitsu, like on trans sports, they have to defend it. If you keep picking 80-20 issues, and the people will just turn against them for decades.
Here's what it's going to take.
We'll be elected. It's great.
It's going to take someone, and the problem is, I was going to say Barack Obama, but the problem is he's even losing some juice now in his own party. I don't know who the face of the party is. I would still say it's Obama, but like I said, he's losing some of that juice. But it's going to take someone like him or a half dozen powerful people in the Democratic Party to say, you know what? We're done with this. We agree men should not compete against women in sports. That's what it's going to take for then the Quentin Lucases of the world or anybody else down the aisle, down the political spectrum to say, okay, all right, we're clear to at least say this is absurd and ridiculous, because 80% of the American people disagree with us.
The juicy rumor in the tabloid today was that they wanted Michelle Obama to run, and now Barack is divorcing him. They thought that she was going to be the savior instead of Kamala. But you're exactly right. They have to find another Bill Clinton, and he ain't out there, and he ain't coming through that door. So go Chiefs. God bless you.
Go Chiefs. Stephen in Kansas City, our caller of the day on KCMO, and I will leave the tabloids to Stephen in Kansas City. I will leave that to him. Coming up, wrapping up with Kevin Keatsman before Kevin Keatsman Uncanceled takes over at 10 o'clock on KCMO Talk Radio. And I got to bring it back with his good friends at Matfield Green. We'll talk about that story. If you missed it, a great Chiefs-themed country song that you hopefully heard on his show yesterday. If not, it's on the podcast. We replayed it again this morning. We'll just kick off our conversation with that next.
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on KCMO Talk Radio,
tags and a
95.7
Chiefs
FM.
flag in a backpack, kissed her goodbye. He was wheels up on a 12-month to the middle of some Middle East fight. Time drags on and that desert sun is the closest thing to hell he's ever known. But on game days that flag waves and it takes him right back home. To his dad painting on the arthritis on a smoking rack of ribs. Mama's got his 15 jersey on, even though it's way too big. His girl's red lipstick and boulevard, yellow ribbon in her hair. They might be a whole wide world apart, still praying the same prayer. Ain't just about the team that's on the 50. It's for a touchdown, Kansas City.
Put on my DJ voice. That's Matt Field Green, touchdown Kansas City on KCMO Talk Radio. Wrapping it up with Kevin Keatsman. John's shaking his head. He's laughing at me in there. The old music DJ in him. How did I do?
I once was told by a program director, yeah, I see what you were going for there. But, so, yeah.
Oh, I gave it my best
try.
I did one country radio shift in Woodward, Oklahoma on a Sunday morning, and they said, I think we'll keep you on the news and sports side of things, and that was fine by me. But I tried to deepen my voice a little bit and do the whole deal. But either way, those guys made an appearance yesterday on Kevin Keatsman Uncanceled, and they're just a couple of Kansas kids. They're trying to make it in Nashville. They're called Matt Field Green, which is a small town, 50 people off I-35 going down to Wichita. And they wrote this song, Touchdown Kansas City. And Kevin, what I love about it, first off, and then I want to get to how you found these guys, is it's not like some cheesy sports song, rah, rah, Chiefs. It's a real song with real meaning, family, faith, military, with the Chiefs as kind of a backdrop, a metaphor. I'm not sure what the right word is.
So everything they sing about is something that, I'm just giving my personal thing, is something that I love.
Yeah.
So the military part of it gives me goosebumps every time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I've met a lot of people that have been deployed and gone and served our country. I never experienced that. I wouldn't have been any good at it anyway. And maybe I could have been a communications person in the military, but sending me to go do something hard, I'm the wrong guy for that. But to think about leaving your family behind for 12 months and your family loves the Chiefs so much that you pack this flag and you take it with you and you fly it on game day and you meet some other people in your troop or whatever that are, Chiefs fans, and that's what you cling to home with for a year, that's a great song.
Yeah.
That's a great song. That's so much better than one of these songs that says they don't even say Mahomes' name in the song. His mom has a 15 jersey that's way too big because it's his.
Yeah.
So she wears that on game day while he's gone, even though it doesn't fit her.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that mom.
Yeah.
I mean, this song, Pete, look at me.
Oh, I'm
got sick,
him.
Man. I got the hair raising. It's so bad.
Yeah,
I'm such a sucker for these things, but man, that song hit me hard when I heard it. I love it.
Well, and so how does this work? I mean, these guys just sent you an email and said, hey, they listen to your podcast. And
I do a song of the week on the podcast every Friday. So today it's my song of the week on my podcast at the end. And so listeners send me songs, whatever. I give my email out on the podcast. You can email me directly. I haven't done that here yet. I'm not sure that's radio policy. So I'm not sure of all the policies here. But anyway, if you listen to the podcast, I give my email address out and people who make songs send them in. I've only been doing that about a year. I just started it and it's become wildly popular and it can be anything. I personally like covers. I like, famous songs that are covered by somebody who else is famous.
So it's not like just a Tom Petty song. It'll be a cover of somebody.
It would be, some woman singing a Tom Petty song if it's that. I'm weird like that. I think there's different versions of songs that I like. So I've encouraged people to do that, but it's not that. People create songs and send them to me. I played the Melissa Etheridge song last week. It was the song of the week last week because the Chiefs were going to the Super Bowl, and it wasn't that good, but
whatever.
It's got to fit. It fits whatever the theme is or something. We've had some great Trump songs and things like that. So these guys sent me the email and said, hey, we're from Kansas, and we'd love to consider us for Song of the Week. And I'm like, oh, boy, the name of it's Touchdown Kansas City. So when I open it, I'm thinking this is going to be the cheesiest, worst song I've ever heard. It's going to be filled with Mitch Holthus screaming way too loud and acting like a fool, and it's just going to be nuts. And I turn it on. I'm like, oh, my God, this is good. And I start listening to them. This has nothing to do with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
It's about military and family and faith.
Yeah.
And they're Chiefs fans, too. It's just a great song.
It is. It is. I really hope that, if we can help these guys in some small way, we'll do it.
I wonder how it fits in Nashville. There's this perception out there that the country hates the Chiefs. They may be in trouble getting this thing cleared because people don't like the Chiefs very much, other than here.
Yeah.
It might be an actual hurdle for them.
Gosh, I hope not.
That thing works, man. It gives me tear goggles, right?
Yeah.
I sit there, I can't see for a minute. I mean, they're not running, but it wells up in your eyes, kind of burns.
How can it not, to
Yeah.
Kevin's point? I mean, you guys are so spot on with that. Now, with that being said, how are you feeling about Sunday?
I'm going 27-20 Chiefs. I know it seems like a familiar score around here, and I think they're going to be up 10. I think the Eagles are going to have to settle for a field goal with about 3.5 minutes to go. The Chiefs are going to get a first down, but not ice the game. It's going to get dicey. They're going to punt it away. The Eagles are going to drive down to field goal range, but not get the touchdown. 27-20.
Very specific.
27-20.
Very specific
I do not
finish.
believe in Jalen Hurts in the clutch in this game. When they no longer can count on Saquon and the game is on the line and Hurts has to make a play or Mahomes has to make a play, I think the Chiefs have a huge advantage.
Well, I think, simply put, I'm getting the better coach with the better quarterback.
Yep.
I mean, in football, if I can get those two things, sign me up every single
If it's
time.
a close game, we're going to get to a point where it comes down to passing at the end of the game.
Yeah. Well, you got an hour left to break it all down. Kevin Keatsman Uncanceled is coming up at 10 o'clock. Enjoy the game, my man.
Thank you, you too.
All right. Kevin Keatsman is next. We'll be back on Monday morning after hopefully a three-peat on KCMO.